Hello, friends. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been above Mount Rainier late at night? No. Well, stay that way. My name's Derek Lansing, and I worked as a fire watch in the North Cascades for 6 years. That means I spent my nights out in a tower alone, looking out for fire, checking the weather instruments, trying not to go utterly bonkers in the silence. The pay was lousy. The isolation was cruel. But the view? Worth all the sleeplessness. Till 14th of October, 2019, that's when I saw something that caused me to call into question everything that I thought I knew about what flies in our skies. It had begun normally. I'd driven my truck up the access road to Station 12 around 9 p.m., the gears of my truck protesting the switchbacks as the fog escalated into the valleys. A clear sky was expected above 6,000 feet. I'd emerge from the cloud layer on the way to the tower. Readings were required every 2 hours. This was the usual pattern for an autumn night. I parked at the base, grabbed my gear bag, and climbed the 127 steps to the observation deck. The tower creaked like it always did, metal expanding and contracting with the temperature drop. I didn't mind. After 6 years, those sounds were like a heartbeat. Familiar, safe. By 10:30 p.m., I'd run through my checklist. Barometric pressure logged, wind speed recorded, visibility assessment complete. The night was crystal clear above the fog layer, stars so bright they looked close enough to touch. Mount Rainier's peak rose to the south, its snowfields glowing pale blue under the moonlight. That's when I noticed them. 6 small points of light, hovering in a loose cluster directly above Rainier's summit. At first, I thought they were stars. But stars don't hold formation. These did. They maintained perfect spacing, roughly equal distance from each other, forming an irregular hexagon that didn't shift or drift. I watched them for maybe 5 minutes, trying to convince myself I was seeing things. Then one of them moved. Not across the sky, down. It descended maybe 20 feet, I could tell by using the peak as a reference point, and then stopped, held position. The other 5 didn't react at all. My hands were shaking when I grabbed the radio. Station 6, this is 12. You got your eyes on Rainier right now? Static, then. 12, this is 6, what's up? You seeing anything weird over the summit? Any lights? Long pause. Negative, 12. Sky's clear from my position. What are you seeing? I described the cluster, the spacing, the movement. Olivia Brennan, who ran Station 6 about 8 miles east, didn't laugh or brush me off. That's one thing I appreciated about her. She took weird seriously. Hold on, she said. Let me get the scope. I waited, watching the lights. They hadn't moved again, just hovering there, motionless, defying every logical explanation my brain tried to offer. Derek. Olivia's voice came back tight, controlled. I've got them in the telescope. They're definitely there, definitely not stars. What are they? I don't know. But they're holding perfectly still. Even with this wind, they're not moving at all. The wind, she was right. We were getting sustained gusts of 35 to 40 miles per hour at our elevation. Clouds were streaming past the peak, moving fast, torn into ragged strips by the jet stream. But those lights? Completely stationary. I'm taking photos, I said. Do it. I'll do the same from here. I set up my camera, a Nikon D850 I kept for documenting unusual weather patterns, and started shooting. Long exposures, short exposures, different focal lengths. Through the viewfinder, the lights were clear, sharp, unwavering. Not flickering like aircraft strobes, not moving like satellites, just there. Then the second one descended. This time I had my eye pressed to the viewfinder when it happened. The light dropped smoothly, no acceleration, no deceleration. Just a steady downward glide until it stopped at the same level as the first. 20 feet below the others. Olivia, are you seeing this? Confirmed. 2 of them just dropped. Derek, what the hell are we looking at? I don't know. I checked my watch. 10:47 p.m. I made a note in my log, trying to keep my handwriting steady. The temperature had dropped to 38 degrees. Humidity at 62%, wind from the northwest at 38 miles per hour, and 6 unidentified lights hovering above Mount Rainier in a formation that made no sense. Over the next 20 minutes, the remaining 4 lights descended one by one, always the same smooth motion, always stopping at the same level. By 11:08 p.m., all 6 were in a perfect horizontal line, suspended about 200 feet above Rainier's summit. "This is controlled," Olivia said. "Whatever those are, they're being operated by something intelligent." I wanted to argue, wanted to say it was drones, or some kind of atmospheric phenomenon, or literally anything that fit inside the normal box of explanations, but I couldn't. Nothing natural behaved like this. Nothing man-made had any reason to be up there. "I'm logging GPS coordinates," I said, checking my equipment. "Maybe we can—" The readout on my GPS unit was blank. What the— I tapped the screen, nothing. I switched it off and back on. The startup screen appeared, then froze. "Olivia, my GPS just died." "Mine too, just went dark." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the temperature. I picked up the radio again. "Station 4, this is 12. You copy?" Silence. "Any station, this is 12. Does anyone copy?" More silence. Just static, like the whole network had gone dead. I tried my cell phone. No signal, no bars. The screen showed I was connected to nothing. Not even the emergency satellite network that was supposed to work anywhere in the mountains. "Derek?" Olivia's voice crackled through. Weak, distant, barely audible through waves of interference. "Something's wrong with equipment." Then her signal cut out completely. I was alone. The lights above Rainier began to pulse. Not randomly. In sequence. Left to right, then right to left, each one brightening for exactly 2 seconds before dimming back to its original intensity. The pattern repeated. Steady, rhythmic, deliberate. I raised my camera again, hands trembling now, and kept shooting. Whatever this was, I needed documentation. Evidence. Something to prove I wasn't losing my mind up here in the dark. That's when I noticed the fog. It had been far below me, filling the valleys like a white ocean. But now it was rising, fast, impossibly fast. The cloud layer climbed toward me like something alive, swallowing the lower peaks, erasing the forests, surging upward with purpose. Within 3 minutes, the fog reached my tower. It hit like a wall, thick and cold, cutting visibility to 0. I couldn't see the ground, couldn't see the railings 3 feet away, couldn't see anything except the faint glow of my instruments and the lights. They were closer now, much closer. All 6 of them had moved from Rainier's summit to a position directly in front of my tower, maybe 300 yards away, floating in the fog at eye level. The pulsing had stopped. They just hovered there, motionless, watching me through the white darkness. I backed away from the window, heart hammering against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get down the stairs and into my truck, to put distance between myself and whatever those things were. but I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stare at those 6 points of light suspended in the fog. One of them began to approach. It moved slowly, gliding through the mist without sound, without disturbing the air, without leaving any wake or trail. Just smooth, impossible motion that brought it closer to my tower with each passing second. I fumbled for the radio. If anyone can hear me, I need help at Station 12. The approaching light stopped. It hung there, maybe 50 feet from my window, and for the first time I could see it clearly. Not a light. Not exactly. It was more like a sphere of luminescence, perfectly round, about 3 feet in diameter, glowing with a soft white radiance that didn't cast shadows. The fog around it seemed to bend, to curve away from its surface as if repelled by some invisible force. Then it started to rotate. The sphere spun slowly on its axis, and as it turned, I saw patterns emerge on its surface, symbols, lines, geometric shapes that shifted and rearranged themselves, forming designs I couldn't understand but somehow felt I should recognize. Ancient, familiar, wrong. My camera was still in my hands. I raised it, framed the sphere in the viewfinder, and pressed the shutter. The flash fired, and every light went out. Not just the sphere, everything. My tower lights, my instruments, my flashlight, even the faint glow of my watch face. Total, absolute darkness pressed down on me like a physical weight. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. Couldn't hear anything except my own ragged breathing and the wind shrieking through the tower's supports. I stood there in the black, waiting, listening, feeling my way toward where I remembered the stairs should be. Then the lights came back. All at once. Tower lights, instruments, flashlight, everything blazing back to life with such sudden intensity that I had to shield my eyes. When my vision adjusted, I looked out the window. The fog was gone. The sky was clear again, stars brilliant and sharp, Mount Rainier's peak gleaming in the moonlight exactly as it had before. No spheres, no lights, no formation, just the normal, empty night. I checked my watch. 12:17 a.m. I'd lost an hour and a half. The radio crackled to life. 12, this is 6. Derek, you there? We lost contact. What happened? I tried to answer, tried to form words, but my throat had closed up and all I could manage was a weak, I'm here. Thank God. We've been trying to raise you for 20 minutes. Some kind of interference knocked out the whole network. You okay? Yeah, I lied. I'm fine. Did you get those photos? Of the lights? The camera. I'd forgotten about the camera. I looked down at it, still clutched in my hands, and checked the display screen. Empty. Every photo I'd taken was gone. The memory card showed 0 files, like I'd never pressed the shutter at all. Derek. The photos are gone, I said quietly. All of them. Silence on the other end, then, mine too. Every single one erased. I sat down heavily in my chair, staring out at the peaceful, normal night, trying to process what had just happened, trying to convince myself it had happened at all. We need to report this, Olivia said. Right now. This needs to go up the chain. She was right. This was bigger than us, bigger than fire watch and weather readings and night shifts in lonely towers. This was something that demanded answers. But when I picked up the phone to call it in, something stopped me. A feeling, an instinct. The absolute certainty that if I reported what I'd seen, if I told anyone outside our small circle of tower operators what had happened up here, things would get worse. I don't know how I knew that. I just did. The same way you know not to walk down a dark alley alone. The same way you know when someone's watching you from the shadows. Some part of my brain, Some ancient survival mechanism was screaming at me to stay quiet. "Derek?" "Let's wait," I said. "Just let's wait until morning. Make sure we're thinking clearly. Make sure we actually saw what we think we saw." Another pause. Then Olivia said very quietly, "You felt it too, didn't you?" That warning. "Yeah." "Okay, we'll wait, but Derek, I don't think this is over." She was right about that too. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I stayed at my post running checks every 15 minutes, monitoring the sky, watching for any sign of the lights returning. But the night remained quiet, normal, as if nothing had happened. When dawn broke at 6:43 a.m., I'd never been so grateful to see the sun. I climbed down from the tower on shaky legs, every muscle stiff from tension and cold. My truck started on the first try, small miracle, and I drove down the access road in a daze, barely registering the switchbacks or the morning fog or the way the light filtered through the pine trees. I should have gone straight home. Should have collapsed into bed and tried to forget the whole thing. Instead, I found myself turning onto Highway 410, heading east toward Station 6. I needed to see Olivia face to face, needed to confirm that someone else had witnessed what I'd seen, needed to know I wasn't going crazy. Station 6 sat on a ridge overlooking the White River Valley, similar setup to mine but with better road access. I pulled up to the base around 8:30 a.m., surprised to see Olivia's Jeep still there. She usually headed home by dawn. She was waiting for me on the tower platform, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "Figured you'd come," she said, handing me one. I couldn't leave either. Kept thinking they might come back. "Did they?" She shook her head. "Nothing after we lost contact. Just normal sky, normal night." We stood there in silence, sipping coffee, staring out at the mountains bathed in soft morning light. Everything looked so peaceful, so ordinary. Hard to believe that just hours ago, we'd witnessed something that defied explanation. "I tried to convince myself it was ball lightning," Olivia said finally, "or some kind of rare atmospheric effect. Temperature inversion creating reflections from ground lights or aircraft. But I've been doing this job for 9 years, Derek. I've seen ball lightning. I've seen ice crystals creating light pillars. I've seen aurora borealis strong enough to look like UFOs. This wasn't any of that." "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." She pulled out her phone, showed me the screen. "I've been researching. There have been 47 documented sightings of unexplained lights over Mount Rainier since 1947. 47. Most of them from firewatch personnel, climbers, or Forest Service workers. People who know these mountains. People who know the difference between normal and not normal. Why haven't I heard about this? Because every report gets classified as unverified and buried. The official explanation is always the same. Weather balloons, aircraft lights, astronomical phenomena. They never investigate, never follow up. Just file it away and forget about it. I thought about that warning feeling I'd had. That certainty that reporting this would make things worse. Maybe they have a reason for that. Olivia looked at me sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if they already know? What if this has been happening for decades and they've been covering it up because—" I trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. Because the truth would cause panic? Because they don't want people to know there's something up here they can't control or explain? Yeah, something like that. She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at Rainier's distant peak. "There's a guy," she said finally. "Marcus Roth. Used to work tower watch back in the 90s. He saw something similar: lights over the mountain, lost time, erased photos. When he tried to report it, they transferred him to a desk job in Olympia, said he was suffering from isolation-induced hallucinations, forced him into psychiatric evaluation. What happened to him? He quit, started his own website documenting Cascades UFO sightings, lives up near concrete now, off the grid, completely paranoid. Most people think he's crazy. But you don't. I didn't, she said. Until last night. Now I'm thinking maybe he's the only sane one. I finished my coffee, trying to organize my thoughts. So what do we do? Keep quiet? Pretend it never happened? I don't know. Part of me says yes. Stay under the radar, keep our jobs, forget the whole thing. But part of me... She turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Part of me thinks they know we saw them, and they're going to come back. A chill ran down my spine. Why would they come back? Because that's what they do, Derek. I've been reading these reports all night. People who see the lights once almost always see them again, like they've been marked somehow, tagged for observation. That's insane. Is it? You felt that warning last night, that sense of being watched. You don't think that came from nowhere, do you? I wanted to argue, wanted to say she was letting paranoia cloud her judgment. But I couldn't. Because deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew she was right. We were being watched, and whoever, or whatever, was doing the watching wasn't done with us yet. I went home. Slept for 4 hours. Woke up drenched in sweat from dreams I couldn't quite remember. Just fragments. White spheres, pulsing lights, symbols rotating in the dark. My phone showed 6 missed calls, all from dispatch. I called back, expecting to be fired for sleeping through check-in. Lansing, where the hell have you been? The supervisor's voice was tight, stressed. We've got a situation. What kind of situation? 3 more tower operators reported equipment failures last night. Same time as yours. GPS units dead, radios cutting out, cameras malfunctioning. All of them in the same sector, everything with a direct line of sight to Rainier. My stomach dropped. Did they see anything? That's the thing. None of them reported seeing anything unusual. Just standard equipment failure across multiple stations. He paused. Which doesn't make sense unless there was some kind of electromagnetic pulse or solar flare. But Noah says there wasn't. What do you want me to do? Get back to Station 12 tonight. Bring backup equipment. If it happens again, I need documented proof so we can get funding for replacements. This is coming out of our budget if we can't prove it was external interference. You want me to go back up there? The question came out sharper than I intended. You got a problem with that? I almost said yes, almost told him about the lights, the lost time, the feeling of being watched by something that shouldn't exist, but Olivia's warning about Marcus Roth echoed in my head. Psychiatric evaluation, forced desk job, career over. No problem, I said. I'll be there. I hung up and immediately called Olivia. She answered on the first ring. They're making me go back tonight, I said. Backup equipment, documentation, the whole thing. What about you? Same. Station 6, full gear, extra batteries. Derek, this feels wrong. This feels like we're being set up. Yeah. We agreed to stay in constant radio contact. If anything happened, anything at all, we'd call it in immediately, job security be damned. Some things were more important than paychecks. I spent the afternoon preparing, charged every battery I owned, packed 3 cameras, 2 GPS units, a ham radio as backup, and my personal laptop with satellite modem. If the lights came back, I'd have redundant documentation. Multiple sources. Something they couldn't erase. I also packed something else. My grandfather's hunting rifle, a Winchester Model 70, loaded with the 30-06 rounds. I'm not proud of that. I'm not some gun-crazy paranoid who thinks you can shoot aliens. But having it there, having some means of defense, made me feel slightly less helpless. Probably stupid. Definitely irrational. But I packed it anyway. I reached Station 12 just after sunset. The drive up was uneventful. No strange fog, no equipment failures, nothing out of the ordinary. The tower stood dark and silent against the deepening twilight, exactly as I'd left it 12 hours ago. I climbed up, set up my equipment, ran through all the checks. Everything working perfectly. Temperature 41 degrees. Wind from the northwest at 15 miles per hour. Visibility unlimited. Rainier's peak stood out clearly against the last traces of daylight, its snowfields glowing orange and pink. No lights, no spheres, no formations, just a normal autumn evening in the Cascades. Station 6, this is 12. How's your night looking? All clear from here, Olivia responded. Equipment's functioning normally, no anomalies. Same here. Maybe last night was a one-time thing. Maybe. But neither of us believed that. I settled into my chair and waited. Ran checks every 30 minutes. Scanned the sky with binoculars. Monitored radio traffic from the other stations. Everything normal, everything quiet. By 10:30 p.m., I was starting to relax. Starting to think maybe we'd overreacted. Maybe it had been some weird combination of atmospheric conditions and equipment malfunction. Maybe... Derek! Olivia's voice cut through the silence, urgent and low. Look at Rainier. I grabbed my binoculars, focused on the peak. They were back. Not 6 this time, 12, maybe 15. Scattered across the summit in a loose cloud, moving slowly, weaving between each other in patterns that seemed random but somehow weren't. Like a dance, like a conversation in light. I see them, I whispered. They're different tonight, more of them, more active. She was right. These weren't holding formation or descending in sequence. They were moving freely, spiraling around each other, creating shifting geometric patterns that changed every few seconds. Hexagons becoming triangles, becoming circles, becoming shapes I couldn't name. I started recording with all 3 cameras. Video, stills, different exposures. My hands were steady now, focused, operating on autopilot while my mind raced. They're spelling something, Olivia said suddenly. What? Look at the pattern. They're forming letters. Or, not letters, symbols, like the ones you described on the sphere. I zoomed in with my longest lens, watching through the viewfinder as the lights moved. She was right. The patterns weren't random. They were structured, deliberate. A language written in luminescence across the night sky. Then they started descending, all of them at once, dropping toward the peak in perfect unison, maintaining their spacing, their patterns, their impossible choreography. Lower and lower until they disappeared behind the ridgeline. They went below the summit, I said, into the crater. Mount Rainier is a dormant volcano. Its summit crater is usually filled with snow and ice, but underneath lies a complex system of steam caves heated by geothermal activity, places where the mountain breathes, places where very few humans ever go, places where something could hide. Derek, look at your readings. I checked my instruments. Temperature had dropped 15 degrees in the last 5 minutes. Barometric pressure was falling rapidly. Wind speed increasing, 20, 25, 30 miles per hour and climbing. Storm conditions developing out of nowhere. Same here, Olivia said. This isn't natural. The lights erupted from the crater. Not a dozen anymore. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They burst upward in a column of brilliance, spiraling into the sky like a tornado made of stars. Higher and higher, faster and faster, until they reached an altitude I couldn't even estimate. Miles up, maybe, far above commercial flight paths, spreading out across the heavens in a vast glowing network. I watched through my camera, finger on the shutter, recording everything, barely breathing as the impossible unfolded before me. The network began to pulse, every light in sync, brightening and dimming in a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. Thump, thump. Pause, thump, thump, pause. The pattern spread across the entire visible sky, hundreds of square miles of synchronized luminescence, and I realized with absolute certainty that this wasn't a random phenomenon or atmospheric accident. This was a signal. Someone, or something, was announcing their presence. "Olivia, please tell me you're recording this." No response. "Olivia?" Static. Then her voice, distorted, breaking up. "Losing power. Equipment failing. Can't." The radio went dead. My tower lights flickered. I grabbed my flashlight, checked the generator. Running normally, battery backup at full charge. No reason for power fluctuations. But the lights kept flickering, and my instruments began resetting, and that familiar feeling of wrongness settled over me like a cold blanket. They were coming. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. I picked up the rifle, chambered around, and positioned myself at the window facing Rainier. Watching. Waiting. The network of lights in the sky began to descend. Slowly at first, then faster, converging on my position, and I realized they weren't scattered randomly anymore. They were forming a shape. A massive geometric structure, edges and vertices defined by brilliant points, faces outlined in pale luminescence, a polyhedron, rotating, descending, growing larger as it approached. When it was about 500 feet above my tower, it stopped. The structure hung there maybe 200 feet across, composed of interconnecting triangular faces that shifted and reconfigured themselves, changing shape while somehow remaining whole. Inside the framework, I could see more lights, smaller ones, moving with purpose, busy with some task I couldn't comprehend. My cameras were still recording. I checked the screens. Every single one showed static. The rifle in my hands felt useless, childish. What was I going to do, shoot at geometry made of light? But I kept it anyway, finger near the trigger, some part of my primal brain insisting I needed to be armed. One of the lights detached from the structure. It floated down toward my tower, the same smooth, impossible motion I'd seen the night before, and stopped at eye level outside my window. This one was different, smaller, about the size of a basketball, and inside the glow I could see something solid. Dark. Mechanical, it tapped on the glass. 3 times, deliberately, like a person knocking. I backed away, rifle raised, heart hammering so hard I thought my ribs might crack. The sphere waited, tapped again, patient, expectant. Against every instinct, every survival mechanism, every screaming voice in my head telling me to run, I stepped forward. I opened the window. The sphere floated inside. It moved across the room, giving me space, not threatening, just present. Up close, I could see the surface wasn't smooth. It was textured, covered in that same shifting script I'd seen before, symbols flowing like liquid across its surface. Then it projected an image. Not on a screen, in the air. A 3-dimensional hologram that appeared between us, showing Mount Rainier from above. showing the summit crater, showing something underneath, a vast cavern system extending deep into the mountain, chambers and tunnels that no geological survey had ever mapped. The image zoomed in on one chamber, large, cathedral-sized, and inside it I saw more of the spheres, hundreds of them, thousands, arranged in orderly rows, dormant, waiting. The projection changed. Showed the mountain 10,000 years ago, glaciers retreating, forests advancing, and the first spheres arriving. Showed them descending into the volcanic chambers, establishing themselves, hibernating through millennia while the world above changed. Showed them waking up. The projection dissolved. The sphere floated closer, stopping just a few feet from me. I could feel heat radiating from its surface, could hear a faint humming, like electrical current through high-tension wires. Then it spoke. Not in words, not in any language, but directly into my mind, concepts and meanings appearing fully formed in my consciousness. Observer, witness, chronicler, that's what I was to them. Not a threat, not important enough to eliminate. Just someone who happened to be in the right place to see what they were doing. We are waking. The cycle completes. You will remember. Why? I asked out loud. Why are you telling me this? Because someone must know. Someone must carry the knowledge forward. When others come asking, you will tell them, we were here first. This mountain is ours. We sleep in the deep places and we wake when the time is right. What time? What are you waiting for? The sphere pulsed once, bright and final. You will understand when it begins. Then it turned and floated back out the window. The massive structure above began to collapse inward, all its component lights drawing together, condensing, shrinking until it was just a single, brilliant point. The point shot skyward and vanished. The normal night returned. Stars, moon, wind, the mountain standing silent and dark. My instruments came back online. My cameras showed normal footage again, hours of recorded sky, nothing unusual, nothing that would prove what I'd just witnessed. But this time, they didn't erase my memory. This time, they wanted me to remember. I sat in that tower until dawn, rifle across my lap, watching the sky, waiting for them to come back, waiting for something to make sense. They didn't return. When the sun finally broke over the eastern peaks, I climbed down, got in my truck, and drove straight to Station 6 without radioing ahead. Olivia was waiting on the platform, looking as shaken as I felt. "You saw them," she said. Not a question. "Yeah." The structure, the lights, all of it. "Yeah." We stood there for a long moment, not knowing what to say, until finally she asked, "Did one of them come inside your tower?" I nodded. Mine too, showed me things. The mountain, the caverns underneath, told me they've been here for thousands of years. Told you the same thing. Derek, what are we supposed to do with this? How do we live with knowing that? I didn't have an answer. Still don't. How do you go back to normal life after learning your world is shared with something ancient and incomprehensible? How do you file weather reports and monitor equipment and pretend the mountains aren't full of sleeping spheres waiting for some unknown signal? We do what they asked, I said finally. We remember. We tell the truth when people ask. We become the witnesses they chose us to be. No one will believe us. Probably not. But that doesn't matter. We'll know. And when whatever they're waiting for finally happens, when they all wake up and come out of that mountain, at least someone will have tried to warn people. Olivia was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm putting in for a transfer, somewhere far from here. somewhere flat where the only things in the sky are clouds and birds. I don't blame you. What about you? I looked out at Mount Rainier, majestic and peaceful in the morning light. Somewhere deep inside that mountain, thousands of spheres slept in the dark, waiting, watching, keeping their ancient vigil over land they'd claimed before humans even existed. I'm staying, I said. Someone needs to keep watch. Someone needs to be here when they wake up again. She nodded slowly. You're braver than me. No, just more stubborn. We shook hands. Professional. Formal. Two people who'd shared an impossible experience and would probably never talk about it again. She drove away 20 minutes later, headed for a new life somewhere the skies stayed empty. I went back to Station 12. That was 4 years ago. I'm still here, still running fire watch, still monitoring the weather, scanning for smoke, recording temperature and wind speed and barometric pressure, still watching the sky every night. The spheres haven't returned, not in any obvious way. But sometimes, on clear nights when the moon is dark and the stars are bright, I see faint pulses of light inside Rainier's crater. Brief flashes that could be reflections off ice, could be headlamps from climbers in the steam caves, could be something else entirely. 3 other tower operators have reported strange lights over the past 4 years. Each time, their equipment fails. Each time, their photos get erased. Each time, they're told it was atmospheric conditions or equipment malfunction, and if they push too hard, they get transferred. I don't talk about what I saw anymore. Don't file reports or try to convince anyone. I learned my lesson from Marcus Roth. The system doesn't want truth. It wants comfortable lies that let people sleep at night. But I keep watching, keep documenting in my personal journals, keep building a record that someday, when the cycle completes and they all wake up, will prove I tried to warn everyone. Because they're still down there. I know they are. Sleeping in the deep places, dreaming whatever ancient dreams entities made of light have, waiting for their time to return. And when that time comes, when Mount Rainier erupts not with lava, but with thousands of brilliant spheres rising into the sky, I'll be here, recording, witnessing, remembering, just like they asked. There are things you learn working night road maintenance in the North Cascades that nobody tells you in training. How to spot black ice before your truck hits it. Which switchbacks get snowdrifts deep enough to bury a vehicle. Where the rock slides happen most often, and how to clear them without getting crushed. But nobody tells you what to do when the fog comes alive. My name's Marcus Calloway. I've been with Washington State Department of Transportation for 11 years, last 7 of those on the night crew running maintenance on Highway 20, the North Cascades Highway. We're the ones who keep the road open when everyone else is sleeping. We patch potholes, clear debris, fix guardrails, and generally make sure people don't drive off a cliff in the morning. It's lonely work, dangerous work. The kind of job where you develop a sixth sense for trouble because out here, trouble can kill you before anyone even knows you're in danger. October 31st, 2021. Halloween night. Not that it mattered much to me. I don't do holidays when I'm on shift. But Hannah Westfield, my partner that rotation, kept making jokes about ghosts and goblins as we loaded equipment into the truck. Perfect night for something spooky, she said, grinning as she tossed a toolbox into the bed. Fog's supposed to roll in heavy around midnight. Limited visibility, strange sounds in the darkness, classic horror movie setup. You watch too many movies, I told her. And you don't watch enough. Come on, Marcus. When's the last time you had fun? I have fun. Working 14-hour shifts doesn't count. Hannah was 26, fresh from Seattle, still excited about the job. Still thought driving through mountain passes in the dark was an adventure instead of a paycheck. I envied that sometimes. The enthusiasm. The way she could turn a routine pothole repair into a story worth telling. Me, I was 42, divorced, living in a studio apartment in Marble Mount that smelled like instant coffee and loneliness. This job was all I had left, and I took it seriously. We headed out around 9 p.m., Hannah driving the lead truck while I followed in the repair vehicle loaded with asphalt mix and cones. The plan was simple. Work our way east from Marble Mount to Rainy Pass, checking culverts, clearing any rockfall, patching road damage from the previous week's storm. Standard stuff. Should have been routine. The fog started forming around 10:30 p.m., right on schedule. Wisps at first, threading through the pine trees like smoke, but within 20 minutes it had thickened into a solid white wall that cut visibility down to maybe 30 feet. Hannah's taillights were barely visible ahead of me, twin red smudges in the pale darkness. "Marcus, you still with me?" Her voice crackled through the radio. "Right behind you. Visibility's getting bad." "No kidding. I can barely see the road markers. Want to call it early?" I checked the GPS. We were only halfway through our route, still had 6 hours of shift left. "Let's push to Diablo Lake, do the culvert check there, then reassess. If it gets worse, we'll turn around." "Copy that." We continued east, crawling along at 20 miles per hour, fog pressing against the windshield like something solid. The trees on either side of the road were completely invisible now, just vague, dark shapes that appeared and disappeared in the headlight beam. No other traffic. No signs of life. Just us and the road and the endless white void. Around 11:15 p.m., we reached the first culvert checkpoint, a drainage system that ran under the highway near milepost 108. Hannah pulled over, hazards flashing, and I parked behind her. "I'll check the downstream side," she said over the radio. "You got upstream?" "Yeah, be careful. Can't see more than 10 feet in this." We grabbed flashlights and headed to our respective positions. The culvert was a concrete pipe about 4 feet in diameter, designed to channel mountain runoff under the road. During heavy rain or snowmelt, these things could turn into raging torrents. Right now, in late October, there was just a trickle of water. Nothing concerning. I swept my flashlight beam across the inlet, checking for debris. Everything looked clear. No blockages, no structural damage, no signs of erosion. Quick inspection. Back to the truck. Move on to the next checkpoint. That's when I saw the light. Not my flashlight. Not Hannah's. Something else. A faint blue glow, maybe 50 yards up the slope, visible through the fog like a lantern behind frosted glass. Soft, diffuse, not flickering like fire or steady like a LED. Something in between. "Hannah, you got any equipment lights on?" "Just my flashlight. Why?" "There's something up the hillside. Blue light, you see it?" Pause. "Where?" "Northeast, about 50 yards up from the culvert. Look through the trees." I heard her moving, boots crunching on gravel. Then, yeah, I see it. What is that?" "No idea. Could be a camper. Lost hiker." "Out here? In this fog?" She had a point. Nobody in their right mind would be camping in the backcountry during conditions like this. But what else could it be? Power lines didn't run through this section. No houses for miles. No cell towers that would have indicator lights. "I'm going to check it out," I said. "Marcus, that's a bad idea. Protocol says we don't leave the road during low visibility." Protocol also says we check for people in distress. If someone's lost up there, they need help. I could hear her sigh over the radio. Fine, but I'm coming with you, safety in pairs. We met at the shoulder, both of us staring up at that blue glow. It was clearer now, closer somehow, though I didn't remember seeing it move. The fog made distance impossible to judge. Could have been 30 yards away, could have been 300. Stay close, I said, and keep your radio on. We started climbing. The slope was moderate, thick with Douglas fir and vine maple, the ground covered in wet pine needles that made every step treacherous. Our flashlight beams cut through the fog in narrow cones, showing maybe 6 feet ahead. The blue glow stayed visible above us, drawing us upward like a beacon. After about 5 minutes of climbing, Hannah stopped. Marcus. What? That light. It's not getting any closer. She was right. We'd covered at least 100 yards of elevation, but the glow still looked the same distance away. Same intensity, same position relative to us. Perspective trick, I said, though I didn't believe it. Fog messes with depth perception. Or it's moving away from us at the same speed we're moving toward it. I didn't like that thought. Didn't like the implication that something might be deliberately staying out of reach. Let's give it another few minutes. If we don't reach it, we turn around. We kept climbing. The forest grew denser, trees pressing closer, their trunks appearing suddenly out of the white darkness like silent watchers. The fog had a texture here, almost oily, clinging to exposed skin with uncomfortable dampness. No sound except our breathing and the soft crunch of our footsteps. The blue glow remained exactly the same distance away. Okay, Hannah said finally. This is officially creepy. I vote we head back. Agreed. We turned to descend, and the road was gone. Not hidden by fog. Not just out of sight. Gone. Where there should have been a downward slope leading to the highway, there was only flat forest floor extending into white emptiness. Our own tracks in the wet pine needles ended about 10 feet behind us, as if we'd materialized out of nowhere. Hannah's flashlight beam shook as she swept it across the terrain. Where's the road? We came straight up, should be straight down. I know. Then where is it? I don't know. My pulse was hammering now, adrenaline flooding my system as the wrongness of the situation hit me full force. We'd climbed for maybe 10 minutes, covered 300 yards at most. The highway should be right there, close enough to hear truck engines if any traffic passed. But there was nothing. Just trees and fog and that blue glow still hanging in the distance. Radio, I said. Call dispatch. Hannah pulled her radio, keyed the mic. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. We have a situation at milepost 108 where... Static. Pure white noise, no carrier signal, no response. She tried again. Same result, I tried mine. Nothing but static. Cell phone, Hannah said, pulling hers out. No signal. She moved in a slow circle, holding it up, watching the bars. 0. Not even emergency service. Marcus, what's happening? Stay calm. We're going to retrace our steps exactly. Watch for our footprints. We followed our tracks backward, step by careful step, but after 20 feet they just ended, like we dropped out of the sky into this spot. Beyond that point, virgin forest floor, undisturbed pine needles, no sign anyone had passed through in years. This isn't possible, Hannah whispered. I know. We need to find the road. We need to... The blue glow pulsed. One bright flash, like a camera strobe, and suddenly it was much closer. Maybe 30 feet away now, hanging at head height between 2 massive fir trees. Close enough to see it wasn't a light source in the traditional sense. No bulb, no lantern, no fire. Just a sphere of pale blue radiance about 3 feet across, hovering motionless in the fog. Hannah grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to hurt. "What is that?" "I don't know. Don't move." We stood frozen, flashlights pointed at the sphere, watching it hang there like some kind of impossible moon. The fog around it seemed thinner, pushed back by its glow, creating a clear space in the white chaos. And in that clear space, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. No shadows. My flashlight beam hit the sphere dead on. Bright LED light from 15 feet away, and cast no shadow. None on the ground, none on the trees behind it, none anywhere. Like the sphere existed outside the normal rules of light and matter. "Hannah," I said quietly, "point your flashlight at it." She did. 2 bright beams converging on the sphere from different angles. Still no shadows. Not even a subtle darkening where there should have been blocked light. "That's not possible," she breathed. "Everything casts a shadow. Everything." The sphere began to move. Not floating or drifting. Moving with purpose, deliberate speed. Gliding through the space between trees without disturbing branches or needles. Coming toward us in a slow, steady approach that felt almost curious. Investigative. "Back up," I said, slowly. We retreated, keeping our flashlights trained on the sphere, watching it follow. It maintained the same distance, about 30 feet, matching our pace exactly. When we stopped, it stopped. When we moved, it moved. It was hurting us. "Run," Hannah said. "Don't. If we run, we could hit a drop-off, a ravine, anything. We can't see more than 10 feet. So what do? We try to get around it, circle left, keep moving downhill, find the road." We angled to the left, moving at a diagonal, trying to break the sphere's pursuit pattern. It adjusted immediately, cutting across to block our path, maintaining that constant 30-foot distance like some kind of invisible tether connected us. Every direction we tried, it countered. Every attempted escape route, it blocked. Always silent, always shadowless, always glowing with that soft blue light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. We were trapped. "Marcus," Hannah's voice was shaking now, "I want to go home. I want to get back to the truck and go home. We will. We just need to." The sphere pulsed again. Brighter this time, bright enough to hurt, and in that flash I saw things. Fragments. Images overlaying reality like double-exposed film. The forest as it had been 1,000 years ago, smaller trees, different landscape. The forest as it would be 1,000 years from now, burned and regrown and burned again. Time layered over time, past and future visible simultaneously in that one bright pulse. When my vision cleared, the sphere was gone. Just gone. No fade out, no movement, no gradual dimming. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. The fog pressed back in, thick and white and normal, and somewhere in the distance I heard the rumble of a diesel engine. "The road," Hannah gasped. "I hear the road." We ran toward the sound, crashing through underbrush, not caring about noise or caution, just desperate to reach something familiar. The ground began sloping downward, and suddenly we broke through the tree line onto the highway shoulder. Both our trucks sat exactly where we'd left them, hazard lights still flashing. My watch showed 11:47 p.m. We'd been gone 32 minutes. It felt like hours. We stood on the shoulder for a long time, breathing hard, staring at each other in the red glow of the hazard lights. Neither of us spoke. What was there to say? We'd just experienced something that couldn't be explained by any rational framework, something that violated basic physics. something that existed outside the boundaries of what was supposed to be possible. Finally, Hannah broke the silence. Did that just happen? Yeah. The blue light, the no shadows, getting lost 30 yards from the road. Yeah. Marcus, what was that thing? I don't know. She leaned against her truck, hands shaking as she pulled out a cigarette. I didn't even know she smoked. We need to report this. Call it in. Tell someone. And say what? That we saw a glowing blue sphere with no shadow that herded us through the woods. They'll think we're on drugs. Then we don't mention the sphere. We say we got disoriented in the fog, equipment malfunction, something normal. And the fact that we both experienced the exact same hallucination. She took a long drag, exhaled smoke that mixed with the fog. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. I checked my radio. Working normally now, clear signal, dispatch traffic coming through in routine bursts. Cell phone showing full bars. GPS locked on our position. Everything functioning exactly as it should, like the past 30 minutes had never happened. Except they had. Both of us knew it. Both of us had seen the same impossible thing. We finished the shift, I said. Check the remaining culverts, complete the route, clock out at 6 a.m. Then we go home and decide what to do. You want to keep working after that? What else are we going to do? We're already here. We're already on the clock. Might as well finish the job. Hannah laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to it. You're insane. Something impossible just happened to us. And you want to patch potholes? The alternative is sitting here freaking out for the next 6 hours. At least working gives us something to focus on. She considered that, took another drag, then crushed the cigarette under her boot. Fine, but if we see that thing again, I'm driving straight back to Marble Mount and you can finish the route alone. Deal. We got back in our trucks and continued east. The fog stayed thick. Visibility still terrible, but now every shadow looked suspicious. Every gap between trees might hide a blue glow. Every moment felt like the prelude to another encounter. We checked 3 more culverts without incident. Cleared some rockfall near milepost 112. Patched a pothole that had opened up from the previous week's freeze-thaw cycle. Normal work, routine work, the kind of thing we'd done 1,000 times before. But nothing felt normal anymore. Around 2 a.m. we stopped for break at the Diablo Lake overlook, parking in the small lot that gave tourists a view of the reservoir during daylight hours. Now it was just fog and darkness and the faint sound of water lapping against the shore far below. Hannah climbed into my truck, bringing coffee from her thermos. Can't drink alone tonight. Need the company. Fair enough. We sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee, listening to the wind move through the invisible trees. Finally, she said, My grandmother used to tell me stories about lights in the mountains. Said her grandfather saw them when he was logging up near Baker back in the 1920s. Blue lights that moved through the trees at night, following the workers. What did he think they were? Spirits, ancestors watching over the land. She said the old-timers respected them, left offerings, tried not to disturb them. Hannah stared out at the fog. I always thought it was just folklore. Ghost stories to scare kids. Maybe it was. Maybe. Or maybe people have been seeing these things for generations and just calling them different names. Spirits, ghosts, UFOs, doesn't matter what you call them, they're still there. I thought about that. About all the unexplained reports I'd heard over the years from other road crews, Forest Service workers, climbers. Strange lights. Missing time. Equipment failures. Most people dismissed it as fatigue or altitude sickness or too much time alone in the wilderness. But what if they were all seeing the same thing we'd just seen? There's a guy I know, I said slowly. "Jesse Thornton. Used to run fire watch up on Copper Ridge. He quit about 5 years ago, moved down to concrete, won't go back into the back country. Someone told me he saw something that messed him up pretty bad." "You think it was like what we saw?" "Don't know. Never asked him about it. Figured it was none of my business." "Maybe you should ask him now." "Maybe." We finished our coffee in silence, then got back to work. The rest of the shift passed without incident. No blue lights, no lost time. Just fog and road work and the slow approach of dawn. By 6 a.m., we were back in Marblemount, clocking out at the district office. The supervisor, Tom Ricketts, was already there, reviewing the night reports. "How is it out there?" he asked. "Fog as bad as predicted?" "Worse," I said. "Visibility down to about 30 feet in places." "Any issues?" Hannah and I exchanged glances. "Nothing major," she said. "Some rockfall near 112. A small pothole patched. Routine maintenance." "Good. Get some rest. You're both back on tomorrow night." We walked out to the parking lot together. The sun was coming up over the eastern peaks, burning off the valley fog, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Beautiful. Normal. The kind of morning that made you believe the night had just been a bad dream. "Marcus," Hannah said as we reached our vehicles, "I don't think I can do this anymore. The night shift. Being out there when things like that might happen." "I understand." "Do you? Because you seem fine. Like it didn't even bother you." "It bothered me." "Then why aren't you quitting?" "Good question. Why wasn't I? Any sane person would put in their notice, find a day shift, stay far away from the dark mountain roads where impossible things lurked in the fog." "Because I need to know," I said finally. "What it was, why it happened, if it'll happen again. Walking away means I'll spend the rest of my life wondering." Hannah nodded slowly. "And staying means you might get answers you don't want." "Maybe. But at least I'll know." "Also." She got in her car, paused with the door open. "Be careful, Marcus. Whatever that thing was, it let us go. Next time, we might not be so lucky." "There won't be a next time." "You sure about that?" I wasn't, not even close, but I just nodded and watched her drive away. I didn't go home. Couldn't face the thought of lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying what had happened. Instead, I drove south to Concrete, a small town about 20 miles down Highway 20, looking for Jesse Thornton. I found him at the Concrete Coffee Company, sitting alone in a corner booth, working on a laptop. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, thinner, with the kind of permanent tension around his eyes that comes from chronic stress. "Jesse, got a minute?" He looked up, recognized me after a moment. "Marcus Calloway. Been a while. What brings you down here?" "Need to ask you something, about why you quit Firewatch." The tension around his eyes tightened. "That's not something I talk about." "I know, but I think maybe you should. With me. Because I saw something last night that I can't explain, and I heard you might have seen something similar." He studied me for a long moment, then closed his laptop. "Sit down." I sat. A waitress came by, took my coffee order, left us alone. Jesse stared out the window at the morning traffic, organizing his thoughts. "It was August 2016, he said finally. "I was running lookout on Copper Ridge up near the Canadian border. Beautiful spot, remote. You could go weeks without seeing another person. That's what I liked about it, the solitude." "What changed?" "The lights started appearing. Not every night. Maybe once a week at first. Blue lights moving through the valleys, following the ridgelines, sometimes just hovering in one spot for hours. I thought they were aircraft at first, Maybe Forest Service helicopters doing night surveys. But they moved wrong. Too smooth, too silent. Did you report them? Of course. My supervisor said it was probably climbers with LED headlamps. Told me to ignore them and focus on fire watch, so I did, for a while. He paused, took a sip of coffee. Then one night in September, one of them came to the tower. My heart rate kicked up. What do you mean, came to the tower? I mean, it floated up to my observation deck and hovered outside the window. Blue sphere, about 4 feet across, glowing like someone had trapped lightning in glass. No sound, no heat signature, no shadow when I shined my flashlight on it. No shadow, I repeated quietly. Yeah, that freaked me out more than anything else. How can something exist that doesn't cast a shadow, that violates basic physics? He met my eyes. You saw the same thing, didn't you? Last night, up near milepost 108, me and my partner. We tried to approach it, got turned around in the fog, lost track of the road for about 30 minutes. Jesse nodded, like this confirmed something he'd suspected. It did the same thing to me, made me lose track of time. I thought I'd been watching it for maybe 10 minutes, but when I checked my watch, 3 hours had passed. The sun was coming up and I had no memory of the night. Did it ever come back? Every night for 2 weeks straight. Always the same. Would hover outside my window, pulse a few times, then disappear. I started dreading sunset. Started staying awake all night with the lights on, drinking coffee, doing anything to avoid sleeping because I was afraid of what might happen if I lost consciousness while that thing was watching me. Why didn't you quit immediately? Pride, mostly. Didn't want to admit I was scared. Didn't want people thinking I'd lost my mind. He laughed bitterly. But after 2 weeks, I broke. Radioed for emergency extraction, said I was having medical issues. They pulled me out, put me on administrative leave, recommended psychiatric evaluation. Did you get evaluated? Yeah, told them the truth. Big mistake. They diagnosed me with isolation-induced psychosis, put me on medication, and made it clear I'd never work in a remote posting again. So I quit. Took a job doing IT work, moved down here where I can see other humans every day. He paused. Best decision I ever made. I thought about Hannah. About how she'd said she couldn't do night shift anymore. About how she was probably already composing her resignation letter. Do you know what they are? I asked. The lights? No, and I've stopped trying to figure it out. Whatever they are, they're not ours. Not human. Not anything we understand. And I think that's why the authorities don't want to acknowledge them. Because acknowledging means admitting there's something in these mountains we can't control or explain. Have you talked to other people who've seen them? A few, quietly. People don't like to come forward because of what happened to me. But there's a small community of us, former fire watch, park rangers, road maintenance workers. People who've spent enough time alone in the backcountry to see things others don't. I want to talk to them. Jesse looked at me sharply. Why? What's that going to accomplish? I don't know. But I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Can't go back to normal like nothing changed. Marcus, listen to me. That path leads nowhere good. I've seen people go down it, getting obsessed, losing jobs, destroying relationships, all because they can't let go of one weird experience. Is that really what you want? What I want is the truth. The truth is we don't know. Maybe we'll never know. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some mysteries are meant to stay mysteries. I finished my coffee, stood up. Thanks for talking to me, Jesse. I appreciate it. Wait. He pulled out his phone, typed something, showed me the screen. There's a guy named Richard Holbrook, former park ranger, lives up in Mazama now. He's been documenting sightings for years, keeps records that go back decades. If anyone has answers, it's him. He texted me the contact information. But Marcus, be careful. Once you start asking questions, you can't unask them. Some doors don't close once you open them. I drove back to Marble Mount in a daze, Jesse's words echoing in my head. Some doors don't close once you open them. Was that what I was doing? Opening a door to something I couldn't control? When I got home, I found Hannah's text waiting. I'm putting in my 2 weeks. Can't do this anymore, sorry. I typed out 3 different responses and deleted them all. What could I say? That she was making a mistake? That she should stay and help me investigate? I had no right to ask that of her. She'd been traumatized by what we'd experienced. She deserved to walk away with her sanity intact. I typed, I understand. Take care of yourself. Then I looked up Richard Holbrook's number and made the call. Richard Holbrook lived in a converted ranger station about 2 miles outside Mazama, a tiny community in the upper Metho Valley. The drive took me 3 hours through increasingly remote terrain, and by the time I arrived, I was questioning my decision to come at all. The station was small, weathered, surrounded by pine trees and privacy. Holbrook answered the door on the second knock. A man in his late 60s, lean and weathered, with sharp eyes that assessed me immediately. Marcus Calloway, yes, sir. Jesse Thornton called, said you might be coming. Come in. The interior of the station had been converted into what could only be described as a research center. Maps covered every wall, marked with colored pins and handwritten notes. File cabinets lined one side of the room. A large table in the center was covered with photographs, documents, and what looked like interview transcripts. You've been busy, I said. 37 years of documentation. Every sighting I could verify, every witness I could interview, every piece of evidence I could collect. He gestured to the maps. Each pin represents a documented encounter. Blue for lights, red for craft sightings, yellow for missing time events, green for equipment failures. The maps were covered in pins, hundreds of them, clustered along the Cascade Range from the Canadian border down to Mount Rainier. This many people have seen things. These are just the ones willing to talk. For every person who reports, there are probably 10 who stay silent. Fear of ridicule. Fear of losing their jobs. Fear of being labeled crazy. He poured coffee, handed me a cup. Jesse said you had an encounter last night. Blue light, no shadow. Lost time? Yeah. Near milepost 108 on Highway 20. He went to one of the maps, stuck a blue pin in the exact location I'd described. That makes 17 in that corridor this year. 18 if you count a truck driver who won't talk on record. The activity's been increasing. Increasing how? Frequency, intensity, duration. 10 years ago, we'd get maybe 1 sighting a month in the entire Cascade Range. Now it's 3 or 4 per week. And they're getting bolder, closer to roads, less concerned about being seen. Do you know what they are? Holbrook sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 67 years. I have theories. Nothing proven, but after 3 decades of research, I've identified some patterns. Like what? They're interested in water sources. 80% of sightings occur within a mile of rivers, lakes, or glacial runoff. They appear most frequently during fog or low cloud cover. They avoid populated areas but seem curious about humans in isolated settings. And they react to electromagnetic fields. Radios, cell phones, electrical systems all tend to malfunction in their presence. That matches what happened to us. Our radios went dead, GPS failed, everything electrical just stopped working. Classic pattern. The working theory, and understand this is pure speculation, is that they're either powered by or composed of some form of electromagnetic energy we don't understand. Their presence creates interference in our technology. But what are they? Probes? Drones? Living beings? Yes. Yes what? Yes to all of it. I think they're all those things and more. I think there's something so far outside our framework of understanding that we don't even have proper words to describe them. He pulled out a thick binder, flipped to a section marked with yellow tabs. Look at this. Interview with the geologist who encountered one in 1983. She described it as aware. Not intelligent in the human sense, but conscious. Responsive. Like it was observing her the same way she was observing it. I read through the transcript. The geologist's description matched my experience almost exactly. The shadowless glow, the sense of being herded, the lost time, the feeling that something was studying her. How many people have had repeat encounters? I asked. About 30%. Once you see them, you're more likely to see them again. It's like they mark certain individuals for ongoing observation. That's terrifying. Or it's the greatest opportunity in human history. Holbrook's eyes gleamed with intensity that bordered on obsession. Think about it, Marcus. We have the chance to study something completely unknown, to document contact with what might be non-human intelligence, to expand our understanding of what's possible. Or we could get hurt. People have gone missing in these mountains, Richard. What if the lights have something to do with that? He waved that away. Pure speculation. No evidence of harm. Yes, people go missing. It's wild country. Accidents happen. But I've never found a verified case of someone being injured by the lights themselves. What about psychological damage? Jesse Thornton can't even go into the backcountry anymore. That's harm. Jesse wasn't prepared for what he saw. Couldn't integrate the experience. You're different. You're asking questions, seeking understanding. That makes all the difference. I wasn't sure I agreed, but I let it go. What do you want from me? Keep working your route. Document everything. If you see the lights again, try to observe them. Take notes on their behavior, their movement patterns, any physical effects. Help me build a comprehensive database so we can start understanding what these things are and what they want. And if they're dangerous, if they decide to do more than just observe. Holbrook met my eyes. Then you run. And you call me immediately so I can document what happened. Either way, we learned something. I left Mazama with more questions than answers, and a growing sense that I'd stepped into something much bigger than a simple, unexplained experience. Holbrook had given me recording equipment, forms for documenting encounters, even a special camera designed to capture electromagnetic anomalies. I was now officially part of his research network, one of the watchers watching the watchers. When I got home, there was a message from dispatch. Hannah had submitted her resignation. They were assigning me a new partner for tomorrow night's shift, someone named Travis Morrison, who'd just transferred from the Olympic Peninsula crew. I called Travis, introduced myself, asked about his experience. 7 years road maintenance, mostly night shift, he said. Seen some weird stuff out there. You? Define weird. Oh, you know. Strange lights. Fog that moves wrong. Equipment acting up for no reason. The usual backcountry weirdness. You ever see a blue light that doesn't cast shadows? Long pause. Once, last year, up near Lake Crescent, thing floated across the road right in front of my truck. Scared the hell out of me. What did you do? Drove away fast. Didn't stop until I hit pavement. You asking because you've seen something? Yeah, last night, up on Highway 20. Then you know what I know. There's something out there that doesn't fit in any normal category. Question is, do we pretend we didn't see it, or do we try to figure out what it is? I thought about Jesse Thornton's warning, about Hannah's resignation, about Holbrook's obsessive research covering every wall of his converted ranger station. We try to figure it out, I said. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. Travis Morrison turned out to be exactly what I needed. Someone who'd seen the impossible and didn't automatically assume they were crazy. We worked well together, falling into an easy rhythm as we ran our maintenance route night after night. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. No blue lights, no missing time. Just normal road work under normal skies. Then November 21st rolled around. We were checking a culvert near milepost 115, same area where Hannah and I had our encounter, when the fog started forming. Not unusual for that time of year, but something about it felt wrong. Too thick. Too fast. Within 10 minutes, visibility dropped to almost zero. Marcus. Travis was standing by his truck staring up at something. Look. The blue glow was back. Not one sphere this time. 3 of them arranged in a perfect triangle about 40 feet above the road, hovering, pulsing slowly. Each one shadowless and impossible. Get the camera, I said quietly. The electromagnetic one Holbrook gave us. Travis grabbed the equipment while I started taking notes. Time, 11:43 p.m. Temperature, 38 degrees. Wind, calm. Visibility, less than 20 feet. 3 spheres, blue-white in color, approximately 3 feet in diameter each, arranged in equilateral triangle formation. The spheres began descending, slowly, synchronized, maintaining their perfect spacing as they dropped toward the road. I kept the camera trained on them, finger on the shutter, recording every moment. When they were about 10 feet above the pavement, they stopped. The fog around them began to thin, pushed back by some invisible force, creating a clear bubble maybe 30 feet in diameter. Inside that bubble, I could see details I'd missed before. The spheres weren't solid. They were composed of layers, shells of light rotating in different directions, creating complex interference patterns, and they were communicating. I don't know how I knew that, but watching the pulses travel between the 3 spheres, seeing the way their rotation patterns synchronized and desynchronized in response to each other, I became absolutely certain I was watching some form of conversation. Travis, are you getting this? Yeah, video's running. EM readings are off the charts. It's like they're putting out a magnetic field equivalent to a small power plant. One of the spheres detached from the formation. It floated toward us. Same smooth, purposeful motion I'd seen before, and stopped about 6 feet away. This close, I could feel warmth radiating from it. Could hear a faint humming, just at the edge of hearing. Could see my own reflection in its surface, distorted, multiplied across those rotating layers. The sphere pulsed once, bright and quick, and every piece of electrical equipment in both trucks died. Lights, radios, GPS, cameras, all gone dark in an instant. Even Travis's flashlight cut out, leaving us with just the blue glow from the spheres for illumination. Okay, Travis said, his voice remarkably calm. This is new. The sphere drifted closer. Now it was maybe 3 feet from my face, close enough that I could reach out and touch it if I wanted to. Which I absolutely did not want to, but I could see inside it now. See structure within the light. Geometric patterns that shifted and reconfigured, creating shapes that my eyes could follow but my brain couldn't process. Impossible architecture. 4-dimensional objects projected into 3-dimensional space. It was beautiful and terrible and completely alien. Then it did something I wasn't prepared for. It touched me. Not physically. The sphere didn't make contact with my skin. But I felt something press into my mind, a presence that was distinctly other, completely foreign, examining my thoughts like fingers flipping through files. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, could barely breathe as this intelligence moved through my consciousness, sampling memories, following neural pathways, cataloging information with clinical precision. It showed me things, visions, images overlaying reality. I saw the Cascade Range as it had been 10,000 years ago, covered in glaciers, pristine and untouched. Saw the spheres arriving, not from space, but from somewhere else, some sideways direction that didn't exist in normal geography. Saw them descend into the mountain valleys, into the deep places where magma still flowed, where the Earth's bones lay exposed. Saw them establish themselves in the thermal caves, the steam vents, the hidden chambers where water and stone and heat created perfect conditions for whatever they were. Saw them waiting. That was the most unsettling part, the sense of vast, patient waiting. These things had been here for millennia, dormant most of the time, emerging only occasionally to observe the changing world above. And they would be here long after humans were gone, still waiting, still watching, still pursuing whatever incomprehensible agenda governed their existence. The presence withdrew from my mind. I gasped, stumbled backward, would have fallen if Travis hadn't caught me. The sphere retreated to its position in the triangle, and all three began ascending, rising back into the fog with the same synchronized precision they'd shown when descending. Our equipment came back online. Lights flickered to life. Radios crackled with static that slowly resolved into dispatch traffic. Everything functioning normally again, except us. Travis helped me sit down on the truck's tailgate. "You okay?" "I don't know. Did you feel that? Inside your head?" Yeah, I felt it." His hands were shaking as he checked the camera equipment. "Please tell me we got footage of that." The camera showed 4 minutes and 37 seconds of blank static. The timestamp jumped from 11:43 p.m. to 12:21 a.m. We'd lost 38 minutes. "It erased the recording," I said numbly. "Not all of it. Look." Travis rewound to the beginning of the file. The first minute showed the spheres descending clear as day before the static hit. "We have proof. Actual, documented evidence." Evidence of what? That we saw unexplained lights? That proves nothing. It proves we're not crazy. It proves something's really out there. I thought about what the sphere had shown me. The deep caves, the waiting, the sense of patient observation spanning geological timescales. "We need to call Holbrook," I said, "right now." Richard Holbrook arrived 4 hours later, his van loaded with equipment. He'd driven through the night from Mazama, and his eyes gleamed with excitement when we showed him the footage. "This is it," he breathed. "This is the first clear documentation of structured behavior. Do you understand what this means?" "It means we're dealing with something intelligent," Travis said. "More than that, it means they're willing to be seen, to interact, to communicate, even if we don't understand the language yet." Holbrook replayed the footage over and over, making notes, measurements, calculations. The formation geometry, the synchronized movement, the electromagnetic signature, it all suggests organized purpose. "What do they want?" I asked. "That's the question, isn't it?" Holbrook looked up from his laptop. "But I think maybe we're asking it wrong. Maybe the question isn't what they want from us, but what they want us to understand. And what's that? That we're not alone. That we share this planet with intelligences we barely comprehend. that there are mysteries in these mountains older than our entire civilization. He closed the laptop. Marcus, Travis, I want you to keep working this route. Document every encounter. If they're starting to communicate more directly, we need to be here to witness it. You're asking us to make ourselves bait, Travis said. I'm asking you to be witnesses to something unprecedented in human history. Travis and I looked at each other. I could see the same conflict in his eyes that I felt, the fear warring with curiosity, the instinct to run fighting against the need to know. One condition, I said. If we do this, if we keep putting ourselves out there, you share everything you learn. No secrets, no hidden research. We're partners in this, not just data sources. Holbrook considered that, then nodded. Agreed. Full transparency. We shook on it. For the next 2 months, Travis and I worked our route with Holbrook's equipment, documenting every anomaly, every strange occurrence. The spheres appeared 6 more times, always in similar patterns, always showing the same curious, observational behavior. We learned things, small things, but significant. They preferred water-rich environments. They appeared most frequently during fog or precipitation. They seemed to avoid direct interaction with multiple witnesses. The larger our observer team, the more distant they stayed. They responded to electromagnetic fields, approaching our equipment when it was powered on, retreating when we shut it down. And they were teaching us. That's what it felt like anyway. Each encounter revealed slightly more than the last, as if they were gradually acclimating us to their presence, building trust, preparing us for some larger revelation. On January 15th, 2022, we got it. But before that final encounter, something else happened that I need to tell you about. December came with early storms and bitter cold. Travis and I developed a routine. Arrive at our sector, run the standard checks, then position ourselves at key observation points where previous sightings had occurred. We weren't just doing road maintenance anymore. We were conducting research, gathering data, trying to understand the pattern behind the appearances. Holbrook had given us more sophisticated equipment, spectrometers to analyze the light frequencies, magnetometers to measure field distortions, even a Geiger counter, though radiation levels never spiked during encounters. We documented everything meticulously, building a database that grew thicker every week. The spheres seemed to respond to our attention. They appeared more frequently when we actively watched for them, as if our observation somehow called them forth. Travis had a theory about that, something about quantum mechanics and the observer effect. But I didn't follow the science. I just knew that the more we looked, the more we saw. One night in mid-December, we were positioned near milepost 114, cameras ready, when Travis asked the question that had been bothering both of us. What if they're not from somewhere else? What if they've always been here, and we're the invaders? I'd been thinking the same thing. The being's words kept echoing in my head. We were here before you. We will be here after. Then we've been sharing this planet with something we never knew existed, I said. Living on top of an entire civilization we couldn't even detect. Doesn't that terrify you? Should it? They've had thousands of years to harm us if they wanted to. Instead, they've just watched, observed, stayed hidden in the deep places. Until now. Now they're coming out, showing themselves, delivering warnings. That's a change in behavior, Marcus. And change usually means something's forcing their hand. He was right. The increasing frequency of sightings, the more direct contact, the explicit warning about consequences, it all suggested escalation. Something was pushing these beings out of their patient hiding, forcing them to interact with us in ways they'd avoided for millennia. The development, the mining proposals. human expansion into their territory. We were the catalyst. We were forcing first contact simply by building roads deeper into the wilderness, by drilling into mountains that had been their sanctuary, by treating the Cascades as empty land waiting to be exploited. Holbrook showed me the geological surveys. Travis continued. There are at least 7 proposed mining operations in this region. Deep drilling, going down thousands of feet into geothermal zones, exactly where the spheres seem to congregate. When do they start? 2 are already approved. Construction begins in the spring. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the December cold. That's why they're escalating. They know we're about to violate their territory in a way we haven't before. So what do? We can't stop development. We're just road crew. Nobody's going to listen to 2 maintenance workers claiming we need to halt mining because of mysterious lights. We document everything, make the case so strong it can't be ignored, and we hope Holbrook's right, that releasing the evidence publicly will force authorities to take this seriously. Travis nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. We both knew how these things worked. Economic interests would trump environmental concerns, and claims about non-human intelligence living in thermal caves would be dismissed as fantasy. The spheres appeared that night, as if summoned by our conversation. 5 of them, arranged in a pentagon formation, hovering about 100 feet above the road. But this time, they did something different. They projected images into the fog, 3-dimensional holograms that showed the mountain's interior. We watched, transfixed, as the images revealed a vast network of chambers and tunnels threading through the volcanic rock. Steam vents connected them, creating a heated environment where water flowed and minerals crystallized. And in those chambers we saw the spheres, thousands of them, arranged in geometric patterns, dormant and glowing faintly, like a city of lights sleeping beneath the earth. Then the images showed what would happen if the mining operations proceeded. Massive drills punching through chamber walls, explosives fracturing the delicate thermal balance, the chambers flooding, collapsing, becoming uninhabitable, the spheres scattering, their sanctuary destroyed, their hibernation cycles disrupted. It was a plea, a visual argument showing us exactly what we stood to destroy. The images faded. The spheres pulsed once in unison, then rose silently back into the clouds. Travis and I looked at each other in the red glow of our hazard lights, both understanding that we'd just witnessed something unprecedented. Not just contact, but communication. An attempt to make us understand their perspective, to show us the consequences of our actions through their eyes. "We need to show Holbrook this footage immediately," Travis said. We did. Drove straight to Mazama at 3 a.m., woke Holbrook up, showed him everything the cameras had captured. He watched the footage 3 times in silence, then sat back with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. "They're asking for help," he said quietly. "They're showing us their home because they're hoping we'll protect it." "Can we?" I asked. "Is there any way to stop the mining operations?" "Environmental impact studies. If we can prove there's a unique ecosystem down there, something worth preserving, we might be able to delay or redirect the projects. But we'd need scientific backing. Geologists, biologists, people with credentials who can make official recommendations. And how do we get them to take us seriously when we're talking about glowing spheres and telepathic warnings?" Holbrook smiled grimly. "We don't mention those. We just say we've discovered evidence of unusual geothermal activity that might indicate rare mineral formations or unique bacterial colonies. Get them interested in the science, then let them discover the rest on their own." It was a long shot, but it was something. We spent the rest of December trying to build that case, documenting thermal readings, water chemistry, electromagnetic anomalies, anything that might justify further study of the deep mountain chambers. Holbrook reached out to his old contacts in the Forest Service, in university geology departments, anywhere he thought might listen. The response was tepid at best. A few researchers expressed mild interest. Most ignored us entirely, and the mining companies continued their preparations, filing final permits, moving equipment into position. Time was running out. That's when the spheres made their final move. The one that changed everything. The weather that night was brutal. Heavy snow, winds gusting to 40 miles per hour, temperature dropping below zero. Normal protocol would have been to suspend roadwork and wait for the storm to pass. But dispatch called us out anyway. There'd been a rock slide at milepost 118, and the highway needed to be cleared before morning traffic. Travis and I geared up, loaded the trucks with extra equipment, and headed into the storm. The rock slide wasn't as bad as reported. Couple dozen stones, nothing too large, scattered across one lane. We set up cones, started clearing debris, standard procedure. The falling snow made visibility almost zero, but we'd worked in worse. We were about halfway done when Travis grabbed my arm. "Marcus, look up." Through the snow, descending from the clouds, came the lights. Not 3 this time, not 6, dozens, maybe hundreds. A vast network of blue spheres emerging from the storm, spreading across the sky above us in a geometric lattice that extended as far as I could see. "Call Holbrook," I said. "Now." Travis pulled his satellite phone. Regular cell service was dead, and made the call while I started documenting. The spheres weren't moving randomly. They were taking up positions, creating a 3-dimensional grid that spanned the entire valley. Mathematical precision, deliberate architecture. They were building something. The spheres began to pulse in sequence, starting from the outer edges and moving inward toward a central point directly above our position. Each pulse synchronized with the next, creating a wave pattern that cascaded through the network with breathtaking complexity. And then the central point opened. I don't have better words for it. The air itself split apart, peeling back like fabric, revealing something underneath. Not darkness, not light. Something else entirely. A space that existed perpendicular to normal reality, visible but incomprehensible. Through that opening, something descended. Not a sphere this time. This was larger, more complex, composed of interconnecting geometric forms that hurt to look at directly. My brain kept trying to process what I was seeing and failing, sliding off the edges of perception like water off glass. It landed on the highway maybe 20 feet from us. The impact should have cracked the pavement, should have made sound. But there was nothing. Just this impossible structure now sitting on the road, maybe 15 feet tall, pulsing with that same shadowless blue light. Travis and I stood frozen, too terrified to run, too fascinated to look away. The structure began to unfold. Sections rotated, extended, reconfigured themselves into new shapes while somehow remaining whole. And as it unfolded, I realized it wasn't solid. It was a shell, a container, something designed to hold or transport something else. From inside that shell, a figure emerged, humanoid, roughly, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head, but wrong. All wrong. The proportions weren't right. Limbs too long, joints bending in directions they shouldn't, head too large and oddly shaped. It was wearing something that might have been clothing, or might have been its skin. A seamless covering that shifted colors as it moved. It stood there in the falling snow, looking at us with eyes that glowed the same blue as the spheres. Then it spoke. not with sound, with thought. Direct mental communication, words appearing in my consciousness fully formed. Witness, remember, tell. The same message the sphere had given me months ago, but coming from this being, it carried weight, authority, the sense that this was important beyond my ability to comprehend. Tell them what? I asked out loud. My voice sounded strange in the snow-muffled silence. We are not invaders, not visitors. We are residents. We were here before you. We will be here after. The mountains are shared space. The deep places are ours. Respect this boundary and there will be peace. Why are you telling us this? Because your kind is expanding, coming deeper into our territory. Building roads, cutting forests, drilling into sacred chambers. This cannot continue. A line must be drawn. Images flooded my mind. Construction projects in the Cascades. New highways planned through pristine valleys. Mining operations proposed for areas that contained the thermal caves where the spheres hibernated. Development that would destroy their habitat. You will carry this warning to your authorities, to those who make decisions. Tell them the mountains are not empty. Tell them they are observed. Tell them there will be consequences for continued encroachment. What kind of consequences? The being tilted its head, an eerily human gesture. We have been patient. We have been peaceful. We have allowed your roads, your towers, your presence in the high places. But patience has limits. If the sacred chambers are violated, if the deep places are disturbed, we will respond. How? What will you do? Whatever is necessary to protect our home. The being turned, walked back to the shell structure, and dissolved into it. The structure began folding inward, collapsing down to a point, then vanishing back through the opening in the air. The opening sealed. The network of spheres retracted, pulling back into the clouds. Within seconds, we were alone again. Just two men standing in a snowstorm on an empty highway with no evidence that anything unusual had happened. Except the recording equipment. This time, it had worked. Every camera, every sensor, every piece of equipment Holbrook had given us had captured the entire encounter in perfect clarity. When Holbrook arrived 3 hours later, we showed him the footage. Watched his face cycle through disbelief, wonder, fear, and finally, a grim acceptance. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "This is first contact, actual documented contact with non-human intelligence. And it's not some distant civilization. It's been here all along, living underneath us, sharing our planet." "What do we do with this?" Travis asked. "Who do we tell?" "Everyone. The Forest Service, the Department of Interior, the media, everyone needs to know." "They'll never believe it," I said. "They'll say it's fake, CGI, a hoax. Then we release the raw data. Let independent experts verify it. This is too important to keep secret." Over the next week, Holbrook worked on compiling everything. Our footage, his decades of documentation, interviews with other witnesses, electromagnetic readings, analysis of the sphere's behavior patterns. He created a comprehensive report and prepared to release it publicly. But 3 days before his planned announcement, his ranger station burned down. Complete loss. Every file, every photograph, every piece of physical evidence, gone. The fire marshal ruled it electrical malfunction. Holbrook wasn't there when it happened. He'd been in Seattle meeting with journalists. When he got the call and drove back to Mazama, there was nothing left but ashes. "They destroyed it," he said, standing in the ruins. "Someone didn't want this information getting out." "The government?" Travis suggested. "Maybe. Or maybe the beings themselves. Maybe they changed their minds about disclosure. Maybe showing themselves to us was a test, and we failed. Or maybe it was just a fire, I said, though I didn't believe it. Holbrook looked at me with haunted eyes. Nothing is just anything anymore, Marcus. Not after what we've seen. That was 3 years ago. Holbrook rebuilt his research from memory and backup files stored off-site. But something changed in him after the fire. He became paranoid, secretive. Started talking about government conspiracies and cover-ups. Last I heard, he'd moved somewhere in eastern Oregon and was still documenting sightings, but he'd stopped trying to go public. Travis transferred to a different district. Said he needed distance from the mountains, needed to work somewhere the sky stayed normal. We keep in touch occasionally, but we don't talk about what we saw. Don't need to. It's always there, unspoken, the shared knowledge that we witnessed something impossible. I'm still here, still running night maintenance on Highway 20. Still watching the fog, waiting for blue lights that may or may not return. They haven't. Not in 3 years. Either they said what they needed to say, or they're just watching from deeper cover now, observing from places we can't detect. Sometimes I wonder if we were supposed to share their message, if that was really their intention, or if the whole encounter was something else. A warning, a test, a form of communication we couldn't begin to understand. I think about that being standing in the snow, telling us the mountains were shared space, about the warning that patience has limits, about the proposed mining operations that are still moving forward, drilling deeper into the Cascades every year, getting closer to those thermal chambers where the spheres sleep. And I wonder what will happen when those limits are finally exceeded. Will the lights return? Will there be consequences like the being promised? Or was the whole thing just a strange incident that happened to a few isolated witnesses? Meaningless in the larger scope of things, I don't know. Nobody does. But I'm still here, still watching, still ready to document whatever comes next, because some doors don't close once you open them. And I opened mine the night I saw a shadowless blue glow floating through the fog on Highway 20, moving with impossible purpose through a world that isn't as empty as we like to believe. The mountains are shared space, and we're being watched. They say time moves differently in the mountains, slower somehow, like the weight of all that stone and ancient forest presses down on the hours, stretching them out until a single night can feel like a week. I used to think that was just poetry. Mountain mysticism. The kind of thing people say when they've spent too much time alone with the trees. Now I know better. My name's Trevor Ashmont. For 8 years, I've worked as a Forest Service patrol officer in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, south of Mount St. Helens. My job is simple. Drive the backcountry roads at night, check for illegal camping, watch for fires, make sure nobody's out there getting hurt or causing trouble. It's lonely work. Most nights, I don't see another person for 10 or 12 hours. Just me, my truck, and about 200 miles of gravel roads winding through Douglas fir and western hemlock. The radio's my only company, dispatch checking in every hour, making sure I haven't driven off a cliff or gotten stuck in a washout. Carla Devlin runs dispatch from the ranger station in Randall. She's been doing it longer than I've been alive, knows these mountains like most people know their own backyard. When things go wrong out here, and they do go wrong, Carla is the voice that keeps you grounded, calm, focused. She saved more than one officer from panic when the darkness gets too heavy. September 8th, 2020. Clear night, temperature in the low 40s, no wind. Perfect conditions for patrol. I left the ranger station around 8 p.m. following my usual route. South on Forest Road 25, then east on 9, looping through the backcountry before returning north on 90. Standard circuit. Should have taken about 6 hours. I radioed in at 8:15 p.m., right on schedule. Station 1, this is Unit 4. Starting patrol, heading south on 25. Carla's voice came back crisp and clear. Copy that, 4. Weather's supposed to hold all night. Should be an easy one. Here's hoping. The first 2 hours were routine. I passed a couple of campsites, legal, registered, fires properly contained. Checked 3 trailheads for locked gates and posted notices. Cleared some fallen branches from Road 25 where they'd been blocking one lane. Normal Forest Service work. Around 10:30 p.m. I turned onto Forest Road 99, heading east into deeper backcountry. This section was more remote. No developed campsites, no hiking trails, just old logging roads and regenerating clear cuts from the 1980s. Cell service died immediately. Radio was my only link to civilization. The road got rougher. Potholes and washboard ruts that rattled the truck's suspension, forcing me to slow to about 15 miles per hour. My headlights carved a narrow tunnel through the darkness, showing maybe 50 feet of gravel road before the forest swallowed everything. That's when I noticed the fog. It came from nowhere. One minute the air was clear. The next, I was driving through thick white mist that reduced visibility to almost nothing. Not unusual for the Cascades. Fog can roll in fast, especially in the valleys, but something about this felt wrong. Too thick. Too sudden. And moving against the wind direction. I slowed further, dropped down to maybe 10 miles per hour, keeping my eyes locked on the road markers. The fog pressed against the windshield like something solid, and my headlights just reflected back at me, useless. Station 1, this is Unit 4. I keyed the radio. I've got heavy fog on 99, about 8 miles east of the 25 junction. Visibility near 0. Static. I tried again. Station 1, do you copy? More static, but underneath it I could hear something. Not Carla's voice, not any voice, just a low hum, rising and falling in pitch, like radio interference from a power line. Except there were no power lines out here. I checked the radio. All the settings were correct. Frequency locked on the service channel. But the interference kept building, that strange hum getting louder, until I had to turn the volume down. Then it stopped. Complete silence. Not even static. Like the radio had been switched off, though the indicator light showed it was still transmitting. Station 1, this is Unit 4, radio check. Nothing. I grabbed my cell phone, knowing it wouldn't work, but checking anyway. No signal as expected. Out here, I was on my own until the radio came back, or I drove into range of a repeater tower. No reason to panic. Equipment fails sometimes. I'd continue the patrol, check the radio periodically, and report the malfunction when I got back to the station. I kept driving. The fog grew thicker. My truck crept forward through the white darkness, and I started to feel disoriented. The road should have been straight through this section, but it felt like I was turning constantly, winding through curves that shouldn't exist. I checked my GPS unit. The screen showed my position correctly, moving east on Road 99, but the track line was doing something strange. Instead of a smooth path, it was jagged, jumping around like the satellite signal kept dropping and reacquiring. Probably the fog interfering with reception, or the tree cover, or solar flare activity. Any number of normal explanations. I was trying to convince myself when the road ended. Not gradually, not with a sign or barrier. It just stopped. 1 second I was on gravel, the next my headlights were illuminating solid forest. Trees directly ahead. No gap, no continuation of the road. I hit the brakes, stopped maybe 10 feet from the tree line, and sat there trying to understand what I was seeing. This couldn't be right. Road 99 ran for 18 miles through this section. I'd only covered maybe 10. There should be another 8 miles of drivable road ahead of me. But there wasn't. Just forest. I put the truck in park, grabbed my flashlight, and got out to investigate. The fog was even thicker on foot, pressing in from all sides with unnatural density. I swept my flashlight beam across the area where the road should continue. Definitely trees. Old-growth Douglas fir, massive trunks, thick undergrowth. No sign that a road had ever run through here. I walked back along the road about 50 yards, checking the edges. Normal gravel surface, normal tire tracks, including my own from just moments ago. But ahead, where the road should continue, nothing but forest. "This doesn't make sense," I said out loud, just to hear a voice. My own sounded strange in the fog-muffled silence. I tried the radio again. "Station 1, this is Unit 4. I have a situation on Road 99. The road appears to be blocked. Requesting guidance." Silence. Then faintly, underneath waves of static, I heard Carla's voice. "4, copy. What's your location?" "I'm on Road 99, about 10 miles east of..." The interference surged, drowning out everything. When it faded, Carla was mid-sentence. "Visibility. Confirm you're safe. Station 1, I can barely hear you. The fog is extremely heavy and the road is blocked. I'm turning around and heading back to..." "Trevor?" Her voice came through clearly now, but something was wrong with it. Not the words, the timing. She'd spoken my name a good 3 seconds after I'd finished talking, like there was a delay on the transmission. "Station 1, are you receiving me clearly?" 5 seconds of silence, then, "Yes, 4, I'm receiving you, but there's a strange echo on your transmission. Are you experiencing any equipment problems? My radio's been cutting in and out. Heavy interference. I think the fog is..." "What fog?" I stopped. "The fog on Road 99. Heavy fog came in about 10 minutes ago." Long pause. "Trevor, there's no fog reported anywhere in the district. Conditions are clear. Are you sure you're on 99? I looked around at the white wall surrounding my truck. "I'm definitely in fog, Carla. Visibility may be 20 feet, and the road is blocked by forest. I need to turn around." Another delay. Then, "Copy that. Return to base. We'll send a crew to check the road in the morning." Acknowledged. Heading back now. I got back in the truck, executed a 3-point turn, and started driving west. Back toward the junction with Road 25. Back toward normal country. The fog stayed thick. My headlights barely penetrated it, and I had to navigate by watching the gravel edges, keeping the truck centered between the tree lines. Slow going. 15 miles per hour felt like racing. I checked my watch. 10:47 p.m. I'd been on this section of road for maybe 20 minutes. Then I noticed the dashboard camera. Every patrol vehicle has one, recording constantly, stored on a solid-state drive that holds about 24 hours of footage. Standard procedure for documentation. I glanced at the indicator light. It was on, showing active recording. Something made me hit the playback button. The screen showed the last recorded segment. Me driving onto Road 99, the timestamp reading 10:31 p.m. Then the image froze. Not went dark, froze. A single frame of the road ahead locked in place, while the timestamp continued counting forward. 10:32, 10:33, 10:34. The image didn't change. Same frozen frame. Same view of empty road and fog, but the time kept advancing. I watched it count up to 10:47, where it finally unfroze and showed live footage again. 16 minutes of frozen image while the camera was supposedly recording. "What the hell?" I whispered. I tried scrubbing back through the footage. Everything before 10:31 was normal. Recorded video of my patrol, smooth and continuous. But from 10:31 to 10:47, just that single frozen frame. Like time itself had stopped for the camera, while continuing normally for me. I was still processing this when something appeared in the sky ahead. A light, red-orange in color, glowing faintly through the fog, moving horizontally from north to south. Not fast, but steady, deliberate, too low to be a plane, too controlled to be a meteor. I stopped the truck, watching as the light crossed my field of view. It was maybe 100 feet up, hard to judge with the fog distorting everything. No sound, no trail, just that steady orange glow moving through the white darkness. It disappeared into the fog to the south, and I sat there with my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to stay calm. Just a drone, I told myself. Someone flying a drone with LED lights. Perfectly normal explanation. Except drones don't fly in zero-visibility fog, and they don't operate this far into the backcountry, miles from the nearest road access. I grabbed the radio. "Station 1, this is Unit 4. Did you see that?" "See what, 4? "The light, in the sky. Red-orange moving south to north across my position." Delay. Then, "-4, I'm not in the field, I'm at the station. What did you see?" "A light, moving through the fog. I thought maybe it was visible from your location." "Trevor, I'm still not showing any fog in your area. Weather stations report clear conditions across the entire district." I looked at the fog surrounding my truck. Thick, impenetrable. Definitely real. "Carla, I'm looking at fog right now. Heavy fog. I'm sitting in it." Another long pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Less professional, more concerned. "Trevor, I need you to check your watch. What time do you have?" I looked. 10:51 p.m. Silence. 15 seconds of it, then, "Trevor, my clock shows 10:47, 4 minutes ahead of yours." "That's not possible." "I know, but that's what I'm seeing. Your timestamp is showing 10:51, but you radioed me at 10:47 my time, and we've been talking for maybe 30 seconds. Something's wrong with your equipment, or with mine, or—" She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Or something was wrong with time itself. I sat in my truck on that fog-shrouded road, trying to make sense of what Carla had just told me. 4 minutes. Our clocks were off by 4 minutes, even though we'd synced them at the beginning of shift. Even though we'd been in radio contact the whole time. "Carla, run this by me again, slow. When you first radioed about the fog, what time was it on your watch?" I tried to remember. Maybe 10:35, somewhere around there. I logged that call at 10:31, 4-minute difference, and every call since then has maintained that same 4-minute gap, like you're broadcasting from 4 minutes in the future, or you're receiving from 4 minutes in the past. Either way, something's very wrong. I checked the dashboard camera again. Still recording, but the timestamp now showed 10:52 p.m., while my watch showed 10:51. They matched, both running 4 minutes ahead of Carla's time. "What about GPS?" she asked. "What's your position showing?" I checked the unit. Road 99, approximately 9.7 miles east of the junction with Road 25, but the track is still glitching. Shows me jumping around instead of smooth movement. "Okay, here's what I need you to do. Start driving back toward the station. Keep your radio on. I'm going to call out timestamps every 30 seconds. You respond with yours. We'll see if the gap stays constant or changes." "Copy that." I put the truck in gear and started driving. The fog remained thick, but at least I was heading in the right direction now, west, toward the junction, toward normal terrain. "Station time 10:48, Carla said. "Unit time 10:52, I responded. 30 seconds passed. "Station time 10:48:30. Unit time 10:52:30. The gap held steady. 4 minutes between our realities, unchanging. I drove for about 5 minutes, watching the odometer, tracking my progress. Should have covered about a mile by now. Should be getting close to the junction. But the forest around me looked wrong. The trees were different, smaller, younger, not the old growth I'd driven through on the way in, and the road surface had changed texture, smoother gravel, fewer potholes. "Carla, how far back did I come from the 25 junction when I turned onto 99? "According to my log, about 8 miles. Why? "I've been driving west for over a mile now. Should be seeing the junction soon, but nothing looks familiar." "Trevor, that's not possible. You've only been driving for 4 minutes my time. At 15 miles per hour, you couldn't have covered more than a mile." I looked at my odometer. Definitely showed 1.3 miles since I'd turned around. "My odometer says different. Check your GPS track." I did. The line showed my westward movement, but it was jagged again, jumping in short bursts instead of flowing smoothly. Like the GPS was recording me in snapshots rather than continuous motion. "This doesn't make sense," I said. "None of this makes sense. Trevor, I'm going to be straight with you. I've worked dispatch for 23 years. I've heard a lot of strange reports from field officers. Equipment failures, weather anomalies, wildlife encounters, pretty much everything. But I've never heard of time desynchronization like this. What do you think is causing it?" Long pause. "I don't know, but I think you need to get out of that area as fast as safely possible. If something's affecting time perception, we don't know what else it might be doing. Come back to the station. We'll figure this out." Agreed. I increased speed slightly, pushing the truck up to 20 miles per hour. The fog stayed thick, but I could navigate by watching the road edges. Just had to keep the truck centered and trust that I was actually moving west, even if my perceptions couldn't be fully trusted. That's when the radio started doing something new. Instead of Carla's voice, I started hearing fragments of other conversations. Dispatch traffic from different times, different dates, all overlapping and bleeding through. Unit 7 reporting clear conditions on Road 23, requesting backup at the North Trailhead. Visibility down to 0, heavy snow accumulation. Found the missing hiker about 2 miles from... Voices I didn't recognize. Situations I hadn't been part of. All of them talking over each other in a garbled mess of temporal echoes. "Carla, are you hearing this?" I asked. "The radio traffic." Her voice cut through, but delayed again. "Hearing what, Trevor?" "Other dispatches, other calls, all at once. I'm only hearing you. There's no other traffic tonight." The signal was degrading. Her words came through in fragments, separated by growing gaps of silence. Like the 4-minute displacement was increasing, stretching the connection between us to the breaking point. I was about to respond when I saw the junction. Finally. The intersection with Road 25, marked by a weathered wooden sign. I'd been driving west for about 10 minutes, covered maybe 3 miles, and here was familiar territory. I'd be back at the station in an hour. I turned north onto Road 25, and the fog began to thin. Not gradually, suddenly. Within 30 seconds, I went from near-zero visibility to perfectly clear air. Stars overhead, moon 3/4 full, temperature still in the low 40s, normal September night in the mountains. I stopped the truck and just sat there, breathing hard, feeling the tension drain from my shoulders. Whatever had happened back there on Road 99, I was out of it now. Back in normal space, normal time. The radio crackled. Carla's voice, clear and present. "Trevor? Did you just break through something? Your signal strength jumped." "Yeah, the fog, it just cleared. I'm at the junction of 25 and 99 heading north. Thank God. How are you feeling?" "Shaken, confused, but okay." "What's your time showing?" I checked. 11:03 p.m. "I've got 10:59. Still 4 minutes off." 4 minutes. Somehow I'd gained 4 minutes during that drive through the fog. Or lost them, depending on your perspective. "Carla, what do we do about this? How do I explain losing 4 minutes?" "You don't. Not officially. You report equipment malfunction, GPS and radio interference due to atmospheric conditions, that's all. The time discrepancy, we'll keep that between us." "Why?" "Because if you report temporal anomalies, they'll pull you off patrol duty. Mandatory psychological evaluation. You'll lose your posting, maybe your job. I've seen it happen before." "When?" She hesitated. 1997. Officer named Bill Garrett. Reported seeing lights and experiencing missing time up near Road 73. They grounded him, sent him for evaluation, eventually forced him into early retirement. Said he was suffering from acute stress and isolation-induced delusions. Was he? I don't think so. I was his dispatcher that night. I heard the fear in his voice when he called in. That wasn't delusion. That was someone experiencing something real and terrifying. I thought about that. About how many other officers might have experienced similar events and stayed quiet to protect their careers. How many strange occurrences in these mountains had been buried under official explanations and medical diagnoses. So we just pretend it didn't happen. We document it, privately, and we watch for patterns. If this is something that occurs regularly in that area, we need to know about it. But officially, equipment failure, nothing more. She was right. I knew she was right. But something about staying silent felt wrong, like I was letting the truth get buried under bureaucracy and fear. "Okay," I said finally. "Equipment failure. But Carla, I need to know something. Have you heard other reports, from other officers, about time anomalies or strange lights?" Long silence. Then, "Yes. 3 in the past 5 years. All in the same general area, eastern sections of roads 99 and 73 up near the base of Mount Adams. All of them kept quiet for the same reasons I just explained." "What did they see?" "Lights mostly. Sometimes fog that came out of nowhere. One officer reported his entire truck shutting down for about 10 minutes, then restarting on its own. All of them experienced radio interference, and all of them had time discrepancies between their equipment and dispatch logs. Why didn't anyone investigate? Who would we tell? Forest Service doesn't have a protocol for unexplained phenomena. We barely have budget for basic equipment maintenance. You think they're going to fund research into possible time anomalies?" Fair point. I continued north on Road 25, heading back toward the ranger station. The night had returned to normal, clear skies, steady radio contact, GPS tracking smoothly. Like the past hour had been a dream. Except for the 4 minutes. My watch still showed 11:07 p.m. when Carla's showed 11:03. That gap remained constant, unchanging. A permanent reminder that something had happened in the fog that couldn't be explained by natural causes. "Trevor," Carla said quietly. There's something else you should know. What? The dashboard camera. When you get back, check the full recording, all of it. Because if the timeline matches what happened to the others, you're going to find something interesting. Like what? Like footage you don't remember recording. A chill ran through me. What do you mean? Just check it. When you get back, we'll review it together. The rest of the drive passed without incident. I reached the ranger station at 11:43 p.m. My time, 11:39 Carla's time. Parked the truck. Took a moment to collect myself before going inside. Carla met me at the door, coffee already poured. You look like hell. Feel worse. Come on, let's review the footage. We went into the operations room, connected the dashboard camera to the main computer, and started playback. I watched myself drive onto Road 99 at 10:31 p.m. Watched the fog roll in. Watched the road ahead as I slowed to navigate the poor visibility. Then at 10:31:15, the image froze. Same frozen frame I'd seen before. Single shot of foggy road, timestamp continuing forward. No movement. But this time, watching on the larger screen, I noticed something I'd missed in the truck. There was something in the fog. Faint. Almost invisible. But there, a shape moving past the truck, visible for just a few frames before the freeze happened. Roughly spherical, glowing with a dim orange light. Did you see that? Carla asked. Yeah. Can you back it up? Slow motion. She did. Frame by frame, we watched the object move through the fog. It was maybe 50 feet from the truck, traveling perpendicular to my direction, moving right to left across my field of view. Not a sphere exactly, more like a disc seen edge on, rotating slowly, leaving a faint trail in the fog that dissipated almost immediately. That's what you saw, Carla said. The red-orange light. It passed right in front of you. I didn't see it that close. I thought it was up in the sky. Maybe it was. Maybe it came down. Or maybe your perception was being affected. We watched the freeze continue. 16 minutes of static image, during which, according to my memory, I'd been driving, checking equipment, experiencing radio interference. But the camera showed none of that. Just frozen fog. Then at 10:47, the image unfroze, and I saw myself turn the truck around, start heading west. There, Carla said, pointing. Look at the timestamp in the corner. The camera's timestamp read 10:47. My watch in the video, visible when my hand crossed the frame, showed 10:51 a quo. The 4-minute gap preserved on recording. How is that possible? I asked. The camera is synced to GPS time. Should match atomic clock precision. It can't just randomly offset by 4 minutes. Unless something affected the camera differently than it affected you. Or affected the local time field in a way that created the discrepancy. Local time field? Is that even a real thing? Carla shrugged. I'm not a physicist, but whatever happened out there, it wasn't normal, and this footage proves it. We continued watching, the drive west, the clear moments where I was talking on the radio, my lips moving, but no sound on the camera audio. Just static. Then the arrival at the junction, the fog clearing, everything returning to normal. Wait, I said, back that up. To the moment the fog cleared. She did, frame by frame again. And there, just as the fog thinned, I saw it. The same disc-shaped object now rising vertically, moving up through the thinning mist until it disappeared above the tree canopy. Like it had been following me, or escorting me, or studying me while I drove through whatever pocket of strangeness had formed on Road 99. "We need to report this," I said. "No, we don't. Carla, we have footage. Clear footage of an unidentified object. That's documentation. That's proof." "Proof of what? An optical illusion in fog? A camera malfunction creating artifacts? Trevor, they'll explain this away. They always do. And you'll end up like Bill Garrett. Sidelined, evaluated, eventually pushed out." "So what do we do?" She ejected the drive from the camera, held it up. "We keep this. Private archive. And we wait. Because if this happens again, and I think it will, we need to be ready. We need to document patterns, build a case, gather enough evidence that they can't dismiss it. You're talking about long-term investigation. I'm talking about protecting yourself while seeking truth. There's a difference." I thought about Bill Garrett, about the other officers who'd seen things and stayed silent, about the choice between career safety and honest reporting. "How many more drives like this do you have?" I asked. "In storage? 12. All from officers who experienced anomalies and wanted the footage preserved. All officially reported as equipment malfunctions. That's a cover-up. That's survival. These officers still work here, still have careers, still provide for their families. They made a choice to document privately rather than be martyred publicly." I understood her point, but something about it still felt wrong. "I want to see the other footage," I said. "All of it. I want to know what else has been happening out there." Carla smiled slightly. "I was hoping you'd say that." Over the next week, I reviewed every piece of footage Carla had archived. 12 incidents spanning 7 years, all occurring in the same general region, the eastern sections of the forest, in the shadow of Mount Adams, where the old logging roads wound through remote valleys and nobody went unless they had to. The patterns were clear, consistent, undeniable. 7 incidents involved strange lights, orange, blue, sometimes white, appearing in or above the fog. All of them moved with purpose, following patrol vehicles or hovering near specific locations. 4 incidents showed time discrepancies similar to mine, clocks out of sync, frozen camera footage, gaps in recorded memory. 3 incidents involved complete electrical failure, vehicles shutting down, radios going dead, GPS units resetting. And every single one had been officially reported as equipment malfunction. "This is bigger than I thought," I told Carla after reviewing the last file. "It's been going on for a long time, probably longer than we have records for. Has anyone tried to investigate? Scientifically, I mean." "One person, forest geologist named Miranda Torres. She was here back in 2015, doing soil and water surveys. Started noticing electromagnetic anomalies in that same region. Strong ones, way beyond what natural geology should produce." "What did she find?" "Nothing official. She was transferred before she could complete her research. But she left me some notes." Carla pulled out a folder, thick with papers. Measurements, theories, maps of hotspot locations. She thought something under the mountain was generating the fields. I flipped through the documents. Technical data I barely understood, but the maps were clear enough. Red zones marked areas of high electromagnetic activity, all of them clustered in a rough circle about 15 miles in diameter, centered on a point near the eastern base of Mount Adams. "What's at the center?" I asked. "Old mining area, abandoned in the 1940s. There's a few collapsed shafts, some unstable tunnels. Forest Service keeps it closed to the public." "Have you ever been there?" "Once. Years ago, before I took the dispatch job. Creepy place. Very quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you want to leave. I studied the map more carefully. The red zones followed the paths of certain roads, 99, 73, and a few smaller service roads. All of them passed near or through areas of high electromagnetic activity. These are patrol routes, I said. We drive through these zones all the time. Not all the time. The phenomena only manifest under certain conditions. Miranda's notes suggest it requires specific atmospheric factors, high humidity, low barometric pressure, temperature inversions. Creates something she called resonance conditions. What does that mean? She theorized that under the right circumstances, natural electromagnetic fields can interact with the atmosphere in unusual ways, creating pockets where normal physics gets disrupted. Time pockets, maybe, or perception pockets, or something we don't have a name for yet. Carla closed the folder. Point is, it's real, it's measurable, and it's been happening long enough that we can predict when and where it's most likely to occur. Then why aren't we warning officers? Why send people out there if we know it's dangerous? Is it dangerous? Nobody's been hurt, nobody's disappeared. They just have weird experiences and missing time. Is that worth shutting down a third of our patrol routes? It is if it gets worse. That's what I'm worried about. The frequency is increasing. 10 years ago, we got maybe 1 report per year. Now it's 3 or 4 per year. And the intensity seems to be growing. Longer duration events, stronger electromagnetic readings, more pronounced time effects. I thought about my 4 missing minutes. About the disk I'd seen rising through the fog. About the frozen camera footage and overlapping radio transmissions. Something's changing, I said. Whatever's causing this, it's becoming more active. Or we're becoming more sensitive to it. Maybe it's always been there and we're just getting better at detecting it. Either way, we need more data, better documentation. If this is a natural phenomenon, we should be studying it. If it's something else, I trailed off, not sure how to finish that thought. Carla finished it for me. If it's something else, we need to know what we're dealing with. She was right. I spent the next month volunteering for every patrol shift I could get in the eastern sectors. Equipped my truck with extra cameras, multiple GPS units, electromagnetic field detectors Miranda Torres had left behind, and kept meticulous logs of everything I observed. Most nights were normal. Clear roads, no fog, no anomalies. Just standard forest patrol in autumn weather. But 3 nights showed something different. October 12th, light fog on Road 73, radio interference for about 10 minutes. Brief visual of an orange light moving through the trees. No time discrepancy. October 19th, heavy fog on Road 99, same section where I'd had my first encounter. Strong electromagnetic readings, but no visual contact. Time gap of 2 minutes that resolved when the fog cleared. October 27th, clear conditions, no fog, but I saw lights in the sky south of my position. Multiple objects, moving in formation, visible for maybe 90 seconds before disappearing behind the ridgeline. No radio interference, no time effects. Each incident I documented carefully. Recorded coordinates, weather conditions, electromagnetic readings, timestamps from multiple sources, building a database that might eventually show us what was really happening. On November 3rd, Carla called me into the station during my day off. "We have a problem," she said. "What kind of problem?" "Regional supervisor is coming next week. Routine inspection. He's going to review all patrol logs, equipment reports, incident files. And he'll see the equipment malfunction reports. 12 of them in 7 years. All in the same area. He's going to ask questions." What do we tell him? Carla leaned back in her chair. The truth. There's electromagnetic interference in that region, natural phenomenon, probably related to volcanic geology. Mount Adams is dormant but still has geothermal activity. We tell him we've been documenting it, trying to understand it, and we recommend getting a geologist to do a proper survey. That could work. Or it could open a can of worms we're not ready for. If they send investigators, they might find things we don't understand, might shut down the whole eastern sector, might bring in outsiders who don't have our interests at heart. You mean the military? She didn't answer directly. There are protocols for reporting unusual phenomena on federal land, protocols that don't go through the Forest Service. If the wrong people get interested, she didn't need to finish. I understood the implications. Whatever was happening in these mountains, it had remained relatively contained because nobody official knew about it. Once that changed, we'd lose control of the narrative. So, what do you want to do? I asked. I want you to take the supervisor out there. Show him the region. Let him experience it firsthand. Then we decide together how to proceed. You want him to see the phenomena. I want him to understand that this is real, it's measurable, and it's beyond our scope. Then maybe he'll authorize proper resources instead of just dismissing it. It was risky, but it might be our best chance to get official support for investigating the anomalies. When does he arrive? November 10th, which gives us a week to prepare. Regional Supervisor Dennis Kowalski arrived on schedule, driving a government SUV and carrying a clipboard that looked like it contained every regulation the Forest Service had ever written. He was in his mid-50s, career bureaucrat, the kind of person who'd never worked a field posting but somehow ended up managing the people who did. Officer Ashmont, he said, shaking my hand with minimum enthusiasm. I understand you've been having equipment issues. Yes, sir. Primarily in the eastern patrol sectors. GPS and radio interference, camera malfunctions, that sort of thing. How frequently? It varies. Some weeks nothing, other weeks multiple incidents. He made a note. And you've been documenting these occurrences? Yes, sir. Detailed logs, including atmospheric conditions and location data. Good. I'd like to review those, and I'd like to see the affected area firsthand. Can you arrange a patrol for tonight? This was exactly what Carla had predicted. Of course, sir. We can leave at 1900 hours. The day passed slowly. I prepped the truck, double-checked all equipment, reviewed the maps to plan our route. We'd take him east on Road 25, then south on 73, looping through the area with the highest incidence of anomalies. Weather forecast showed fog rolling in after sunset. Perfect conditions for phenomena to manifest. Carla pulled me aside before we left. Remember, stick to observable facts. Don't speculate about causes. Let him draw his own conclusions. What if nothing happens? Then we just document electromagnetic readings and show him the equipment interference. That's enough to justify further investigation. At 7 p.m., Kowalski and I headed out. He sat in the passenger seat, still holding that clipboard, making notes about everything I did. Standard patrol procedure, I explained as we left the station. We check registered campsites, monitor for fires, make sure the roads are passable and the gates are secure. How many miles do you typically cover per shift? Anywhere from 150 to 200, depending on the route and conditions. And how often do you encounter other people? Maybe once or twice a week. These are remote areas. Most visitors stick to the developed campgrounds and major trails. We drove in silence for a while, heading south through darkening forest. The sun had set about 20 minutes ago, and twilight was fading fast. By the time we reached the junction with Road 73, full darkness had fallen, and the fog was starting to form. Is that normal? Kowalski asked, watching the mist gather between the trees. For this time of year, yes. Temperature drops, humidity rises, fog forms in the valleys. Does it affect visibility much? Sometimes. Tonight looks like it's going to be heavy. I turned onto Road 73, heading east. The fog thickened immediately, reducing my headlight range to about 30 feet. I slowed to 20 miles per hour, navigating by watching the road edges. This is quite dense, Kowalski observed. Yes, sir. We'll proceed carefully. If it gets too bad, we'll turn around. 5 minutes in, the radio started crackling. Station 1, this is Unit 4. Radio check. Carla's voice came back. Read you loud and clear, 4. How's the patrol? Heavy fog on 73. Proceeding east. We'll update at next checkpoint. Copy that. Be safe. I glanced at Kowalski. He was still taking notes, apparently unimpressed by standard radio traffic. Then the interference started. Subtle at first, just a low hum underneath Carla's transmissions. But it built quickly, that same rising and falling pitch I'd heard before. Within 2 minutes, the radio was almost unusable. Is that normal? Kowalski asked again, but his tone had changed. Less dismissive now. This is the interference I mentioned in my reports. It happens in this area, sometimes mild, sometimes severe. I tried the radio again. Station 1, this is Unit 4. Are you experiencing any technical issues? Static, then fragments of Carla's voice. Negative, signal, strong, position. Station 1, I'm not receiving you clearly. Heavy interference on my end. More static, then nothing. I checked the GPS. The screen was flickering, showing our position, then losing signal, then reacquiring it. The track line jumped erratically. That's unusual, Kowalski said, leaning forward to watch the display. GPS should maintain lock even in heavy weather. Should, yes, but in this area, it doesn't always work correctly. I pulled out my backup GPS, a handheld unit I'd been carrying since my first encounter. It showed the same flickering behavior, both units losing and regaining signal in sync. What's causing the interference? Kowalski asked. Unknown. Could be geological. Mount Adams has geothermal activity. Could be generating electromagnetic fields strong enough to disrupt equipment. Strong enough to affect GPS satellites. I don't know, sir. I'm not a geologist. We continued driving. The fog grew thicker, and I had to slow to 15 miles per hour. The road felt wrong again. Curves where there shouldn't be curves, like the geometry was shifting. Then Kowalski said something that surprised me. What's your watch showing? I checked. 2042. Mine shows 2038. 4-minute difference. I looked at him. He was staring at his watch, then at mine, then at the dashboard clock, which showed 2042, matching my time. How is that possible? He asked. We synced our watches at the station 3 hours ago. They were identical. I don't know, sir. But I did know. It was happening again. The time displacement. The same 4-minute gap I'd experienced before. Kowalski wasn't taking notes anymore. He was watching everything. The fog, the GPS, his watch, the radio, with an intensity that suggested his skepticism was evaporating. Officer Ashmont, in your reports, you mentioned visual phenomena. Have you observed anything unusual tonight? Not yet, sir. But you've seen things before. What kind of things? I hesitated. This was the line Carla had warned me about. Don't speculate. Stick to facts. Lights, sir, usually orange or red, moving through the fog or above the tree canopy. No sound, no obvious source. Like aircraft? No, sir. wrong movement patterns, too slow for jets, too fast and controlled for drones, and completely silent. Could they be meteorological? Ball lightning or some similar phenomenon? I considered that. But the movements are too precise, too directed. He was quiet for a moment, processing, then, how long have these sightings been occurring? I've personally witnessed 3 incidents, but according to dispatch records, officers have been reporting similar observations for at least 7 years. Why wasn't this escalated? Because everyone who reported it was told it was equipment malfunction or weather phenomena. After a while, people stopped reporting. Kowalski's expression darkened. That's a serious breach of protocol. Unexplained phenomena on federal land should be investigated, not dismissed. Yes, sir. We drove for another few minutes. The fog showed no signs of clearing. If anything, it was getting thicker, and the electromagnetic readings on the detectors were climbing steadily. Then I saw it. A glow in the fog ahead, orange-red in color. Not moving. Just hovering maybe 50 yards in front of us, right above the road. "Sir," I said quietly, "do you see that?" "The light? Yes. That's what I've been seeing." I slowed the truck to a crawl. The glow remained stationary, pulsing gently, casting strange shadows through the mist. Or rather, not casting shadows. The fog around it glowed uniformly without any directional lighting effects. "Stop here," Kowalski said. "I want to observe." I stopped the truck about 30 yards from the glow. We sat there watching it pulse, steady rhythm, like breathing. The electromagnetic detectors were screaming now, showing readings far beyond normal background levels. "What's the camera recording?" Kowalski asked. I checked the dashboard display. The image showed the fog and the glow, clear and present, timestamp advancing normally. So far, no freeze. "It's recording normally, sir." "Get the handheld camera. I want backup documentation." I grabbed the secondary camera from the equipment bag, started recording. Through the viewfinder, the glow looked even stranger, almost like it had structure inside it, layers rotating at different speeds. "This is incredible," Kowalski breathed. "This is actual documentation of unexplained phenomena." The glow began to move. Not toward us. Perpendicular. Gliding smoothly from left to right across our field of view, maintaining the same distance from the truck. Silent, effortless. Impossible. I kept both cameras trained on it, recording everything. Beside me, Kowalski had pulled out his phone and was recording too. "Are you getting this?" he asked. "Yes, sir." The glow completed its traverse, disappeared into the fog on the right side of the road. We waited, watching, but it didn't reappear. "Check your watch," Kowalski said. I did. 20:51. Mine shows 20:47, still 4 minutes. The gap had held constant throughout the entire observation. Whatever was affecting time wasn't changing its parameters. It was maintaining a steady 4-minute displacement between our local time and normal time. "We need to get back to the station," Kowalski said. "This needs to be reported, properly, to people who can investigate it correctly." "Yes, sir." I turned the truck around, started heading west, back toward the junction, back toward the station. The fog began to clear almost immediately. Within 3 minutes we were back in normal visibility, stars overhead, GPS tracking smoothly, and our watches resynchronized. I noticed it first. My watch display flickered, then jumped backward 4 minutes, matching Kowalski's time. "Did you see that?" I asked. He was staring at his own watch. "Yes, the gap just closed, like it never existed. But it did exist for almost 20 minutes. I know. I witnessed it." We drove in silence for a while, both processing what we'd experienced. Finally, Kowalski said, "This changes everything. This isn't equipment malfunction. This isn't weather phenomena. This is something unknown occurring on federal land, and it needs to be investigated by qualified scientists. What happens now? Now I make phone calls to people who handle unusual situations, and we document everything. All the previous incidents, all your recordings, all the electromagnetic data. We build a case that can't be dismissed or explained away. Will they listen? They have to. We have video evidence, multiple witnesses, measurable physical effects. This is real, it's documented, and it's happening in our jurisdiction. They can't ignore it." I wanted to believe him, wanted to think that finally, after 7 years of silent incidents, someone with authority was taking this seriously, but I also remembered what Carla had said about protocols, about other agencies getting involved, about losing control of the narrative. "Sir, one question. Who exactly are you planning to contact?" Kowalski met my eyes. "The people who need to know. The people who can do something about it." That wasn't an answer. That was evasion. And that's when I started to worry about what we'd just set in motion. When we got back to the station, Carla was waiting with coffee and concern written across her face. "You were gone for 3 hours," she said. "I was about to send someone looking for you." 3 hours? I checked my watch. 22:47. We'd left at 19 o'clock. That was 3 hours and 47 minutes. "How long does your log show?" Kowalski asked. She checked the computer. "You radioed in at 19:14. Last contact was at 19:23. Then nothing until you walked through the door just now. By my clock, you were out of contact for 3 hours and 23 minutes. We looked at our watches. Both showed 22:47, but her clock showed 22:43. 4 minutes, I said. We never got those 4 minutes back. Kowalski's face had gone pale. That's not possible. I watched the gap close, the watches resynchronized. To each other, Carla said slowly. But not to normal time. You both experienced the same displacement, so when you resynchronized, you were still 4 minutes ahead of the rest of us. The implications settled over the room like a weight. We lost 4 minutes, Kowalski said. Permanently. That time just doesn't exist in our timeline. Or it exists somewhere else, I suggested. Somewhere we were while we were in the fog. Carla pulled up the recordings. We watched the dashboard camera footage, clear images of the orange glow moving across the road, everything documented perfectly. Then she checked the timestamp. The footage showed us observing the glow from 2038 to 2051, 13 minutes of observation. But her dispatch log showed we'd been out of radio contact from 1923 to 2243, 3 hours and 20 minutes. Where were you for the other 3 hours? She asked. We looked at each other. We had no answer. From our perspective, we'd driven out to Road 73, encountered the fog and the glow, observed it for about 15 minutes, then driven back. Maybe 90 minutes total. But somehow, 3 hours and 47 minutes had passed. Missing time, Kowalski said quietly. We experienced missing time. He spent the next hour on the phone, speaking in low tones to people whose names he didn't share. When he finished, he called Carla and me into the conference room. I've made contact with a research group that specializes in unexplained phenomena on federal lands. They're interested in what we've documented. Very interested. They want to send a team up here to investigate. What kind of team? Carla asked. Scientists, physicists, geologists, atmospheric specialists, people who can measure and analyze these events properly. When? Next week. They're putting together equipment and personnel now. Carla and I exchanged glances. This was moving fast. Too fast. Sir, I said carefully, what exactly did you tell them? The truth. Time displacement. Electromagnetic anomalies. Visual phenomena. Missing time. Everything we experienced and documented. And their response? They weren't surprised. Apparently, there are several sites around the country showing similar characteristics. This forest is one of about 20 known locations exhibiting what they call temporal spatial distortions. They have a name for it? Carla asked. They have names for a lot of things, which suggests they've been studying this for a while. Without telling the Forest Service, Kowalski's expression hardened. Apparently, the Forest Service has been informed, multiple times, at levels above my authority, and the decision was made to minimize attention to these sites, keep them quiet, avoid public panic. That's a cover-up, I said. That's policy, whether we agree with it or not. Carla stood up, paced to the window. So, what happens now? They come in, study the phenomena, add our data to their classified files, and tell us to keep quiet? I don't know. I'm hoping for more transparency than that, but we'll have to wait and see. The research team arrived 6 days later. 3 vehicles, 8 personnel, enough equipment to run a small laboratory. They set up in a cleared area near the ranger station and immediately began deploying sensors along roads 73 and 99. Dr. Sarah Kimball led the team, a physicist in her 40s with the kind of intensity that suggested she'd been chasing these phenomena for years. She reviewed all our footage, all our logs, all Miranda Torres' old electromagnetic data. This is excellent documentation, she said. Some of the best we've seen from a non-controlled environment. What exactly are we dealing with? I asked. We're not entirely sure. The working theory is that certain geological conditions, volcanic geology, specific mineral deposits, underground water flows, can create natural electromagnetic fields of unusual strength and coherence. Under the right atmospheric conditions, these fields can interact with local space-time in ways that produce measurable distortions. In English? She smiled. The ground is generating something like a magnetic field, but much more complex. When conditions are right, that field can bend time and space slightly. Not much, we're talking microseconds per minute under normal circumstances. But in hotspots like this forest, the effects can be strong enough to create observable phenomena. The time displacement. Exactly. You're moving through a region where time is flowing at a slightly different rate than the surrounding area. To you, everything feels normal. But to outside observers, you've accelerated or decelerated depending on which direction the field is oriented. And the lights? That's where it gets interesting. We think the lights might be some kind of energy phenomenon associated with the fields. Possibly plasma formation, possibly something more exotic. They seem to appear at the boundaries of the temporal distortion zones like markers showing where normal space-time ends and the affected area begins. Are they dangerous? Dr. Kimball hesitated. We don't think so. Hundreds of people have experienced these phenomena over the years. As far as we can tell, the only lasting effects are the missing time and some residual electromagnetic exposure. No health impacts, no permanent changes, as far as you can tell. Science is about what we can measure and verify. So far, our measurements suggest it's safe, but I won't claim we understand everything. Over the next week, the team ran constant monitoring. They deployed sophisticated sensors throughout the hotspots, recording electromagnetic readings, gravitational fluctuations, even attempting to measure time dilation directly. On the third night, conditions aligned perfectly. High humidity, low pressure, temperature inversion, all the factors that seemed to trigger the phenomena. Dr. Kimball asked me to drive the patrol route again, this time with their instruments in the truck. "We need to measure the effects from inside the distortion," she explained. "Your previous recordings gave us external observations. Now we need internal data." I agreed, though part of me wanted to refuse. Each encounter felt like stepping into something I didn't fully understand. Something that could go wrong in ways I couldn't predict. But curiosity won out. I drove the route at 20-odd hours, heading east on familiar roads. Dr. Kimball monitored from the station, tracking my progress through multiple systems. The fog formed right on schedule. By 2015, I was driving through thick mist on Road 73, visibility down to 30 feet. The interference started. Radio cutting in and out, GPS flickering, the electromagnetic meters in the truck showing readings that climbed steadily higher. Then I saw the light. Not orange this time. Blue. Brighter than before. It appeared directly ahead of me, hovering over the road, pulsing with that same steady rhythm. "Dr. Kimball, are you receiving this?" I radioed. Her voice came back broken. "Yes. Readings. Incredible. Stay. Position." The light began to approach. Slowly, deliberately, closing the distance between us. I stopped the truck, watching as it came closer. 50 yards, 40, 30. The instruments were going crazy. Electromagnetic readings off the scale. Temperature inside the truck dropping rapidly. And my watch, I could see the display flickering, numbers changing like it couldn't decide what time it was. 20 yards. The light stopped, and I felt something I hadn't felt before. A presence, not physical, but mental, like something was observing me, studying me, trying to understand what I was. "Dr. Kimball, something's different this time. It feels aware." No response, just static. The light pulsed once, bright and sharp, and the world shifted. Not dramatically, just a subtle wrongness, like reality had been nudged slightly out of alignment. The fog looked different. The trees looked different. Even the air felt different. I checked my watch, 2023. Checked the dashboard clock, 2019. 4-minute gap, but in the opposite direction from before. I was behind normal time instead of ahead of it. The light began to circle the truck. Slow orbit, maintaining constant distance, moving around me like it was examining something. I tracked it with the cameras, recording everything, while that sense of being observed intensified. Then it stopped directly in front of the truck again, and it did something I'd never seen before. It changed shape. The sphere elongated, stretched, became a disk. Then the disk split into 3 smaller spheres. Then those merged back together into a different configuration. Shapes flowing into shapes, geometry that made my eyes hurt to follow. And through it all, that sense of intelligence, of purpose, of something trying to communicate in a language I couldn't understand. "What are you?" I whispered. The shapes froze, held still for maybe 5 seconds. Then they collapsed down to a single point and vanished. The fog cleared instantly. Like someone had flipped a switch, the mist just evaporated, leaving me on a clear road under a star-filled sky. My instruments returned to normal. Radio came back online, GPS locked solid. "Unit 4, this is Dr. Kimball. Trevor, can you hear me?" "I'm here. I'm okay." "What's your time showing?" I checked. 2024. 2024. We show 2032. You lost 8 minutes this time. 8 minutes, twice the displacement from my first encounter. The phenomena was escalating. When I got back to the station, Kimball had the entire team reviewing data. Their faces showed excitement mixed with concern. "That was extraordinary," she said. "We've never recorded readings like this. The field strength was 10 times higher than any previous measurement. And the way it moved, the shape-shifting, that suggests a level of complexity we haven't seen before. What does it mean?" "I don't know, but it's not just a natural phenomenon. There's something directing it, something intelligent. The lights? Or whatever's generating the lights. The question is whether it's a natural intelligence, some kind of emergent property of the electromagnetic fields, or something else entirely." "Like what?" She met my eyes. "Like something that existed before we did, something that's been here all along, in the deep places, and we're just now developing the technology to detect it." That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the presence I'd felt, the sense of being studied, the shapes flowing into shapes like a message I couldn't decode. Around 3 a.m., I gave up trying to rest and went to the operations room. Carla was there, going through old files. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Too much in my head." "Yeah, I know the feeling." She pulled out a folder I hadn't seen before. "Found something you should see. Personnel records from the 1950s. Why are you looking at those?" "Because Dr. Kimball said these phenomena have been observed for decades. I wanted to see if there were any earlier reports." She showed me a memo from 1953. A patrol officer named Robert Milhouse reporting strange lights and time discrepancies on what was then called Road 7, now Road 73. "Same location," I said. "Same phenomena, same 4-minute time gaps, same fog and interference, and look at this." He drew what he saw. The sketch showed disc-shaped objects hovering above the road. Below it, he'd written, "Appeared to be observing me. Felt like they were waiting for something." Waiting for what? He never found out. He was transferred 3 months later. No explanation in his file. I thought about that, about decades of observations, all dismissed or hidden. All these encounters with something we didn't understand, swept under bureaucratic carpets. "Carla, what if Milhouse was right? What if they're waiting for something?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Maybe for us to reach a certain level of understanding. Maybe for the right conditions. Maybe for permission to make contact." That's a lot of maybes. Everything about this is maybes. But what if the phenomena is escalating because we're finally paying attention, finally documenting instead of dismissing? What if our observation is what triggers the response? She considered that. Then Dr. Kimball's team is accelerating the process. More observation, more sophisticated instruments, more focused attention. Which means more phenomena, stronger effects, greater contact. Is that what you want? I didn't know. Part of me wanted answers, wanted to understand what these lights were, what intelligence guided them, what they wanted from us. But another part remembered that presence in the fog, that alien awareness studying me, and felt deeply uncertain about seeking closer contact. "I think," I said slowly, "that we've already started something we can't stop. Whether I want it or not, this is happening. The only choice is whether we face it with eyes open or keep pretending it's not real." Carla nodded. "Then we'd better be ready for what comes next." Dr. Kimball's team stayed for 3 more weeks, running experiments and deploying sensors throughout the affected area. They discovered the zone was roughly 18 miles in diameter, centered southeast of Mount Adams. The phenomena appeared strongest during new and full moons, and most disturbing, the zone was expanding by about 20 feet per year. In 50 years, this will affect major highways, Dr. Kimball told me. In 100 years, populated areas. Can it be stopped? We don't even understand the mechanism fully. The electromagnetic fields are natural, but the lights, the intelligence behind them, that's something else entirely. On their last night, she asked if I'd drive into the zone one more time. We think the phenomena responds to human observation, she explained. We want to test if focused intention affects it. I drove out at 21 hours alone, following the familiar route. The fog formed as expected. The interference started, and the light appeared. Blue, brighter than before, hovering ahead of me. I stopped the truck and focused my attention on it. I want to understand. Show me what you are. The light pulsed once, sharp and bright. Then it showed me things, not images, impressions, concepts flowing directly into my mind. I understood that the lights were ancient, tied to the geology, existing in these mountains since before humans arrived. They possessed intelligence that operated on completely different principles. They observed, remembered, responded to patterns, and they were changing. Human activity, our roads, vehicles, electromagnetic devices, was affecting them, making them stronger, more visible, more active. They weren't hostile or benevolent. They simply were, adapting to a changing environment. The impressions faded. The light pulsed once more, then disappeared. When I got back, Dr. Kimball took one look at my face and said, "It communicated with you, didn't it?" I described what I'd experienced. She listened, taking notes. "That matches our theoretical model," she said. "These aren't visitors, they're residents, the oldest residents these mountains have, and we're just now becoming capable of perceiving them." The team left the next day. Dr. Kimball promised to share their findings, to push for continued research. But 3 months later, her phone number was disconnected. The research organization's website was gone. Every trace of their investigation had been scrubbed from official records. Carla found one reference in a classified memo. Cascades investigation concluded. Phenomena attributed to natural electromagnetic effects. No further action required. That was the official explanation, the comfortable lie. But I know better. I still patrol those roads, still see the lights occasionally, still feel that presence when conditions are right. That sense of being studied by an intelligence that predates our civilization. The time gaps continue. A minute here, 2 minutes there. I've learned to account for them, to sync my watch when I exit the zones, to avoid explaining the unexplainable. Carla retired last year. She gave me her archive, all the drives, footage, documentation spanning decades. "Someone needs to keep the record," she said. "I keep it in a secure location. Add to it whenever new incidents occur." Because the zone is still expanding, reaching toward roads with more traffic, areas with more people. Eventually, the phenomena will affect enough people that it can't be hidden. Eventually, we'll have to acknowledge what we share this planet with. I just hope when that day comes, we're ready.